if there was anyone in the organization or the fan base, the front office, the coaching staff, name your spot, that is a Leafs fan or Toronto sports fan, whatever, that was holding out hope, that thought, you know what, there's 4 games left until the Olympic break. Maybe you string together a couple, we get to the break, you get some guys back healthy, you get some guys rested, you get them ready for the final push in what would be, the final 25 games of the season. And then you go on a tear, you get to the deadline, you add some bodies, and we're in a good spot. For anybody who was holding out hope that that would be the case, if this game didn't tell it to you watching it in real time, just watch it again. Because I think the answers of what you were looking for, whether or not this is salvageable and there's something worth saving from this team, was just killed there tonight. And it was on display as to why that's not the case. We're going to break all of it down here tonight. I have a lot of thoughts on tonight's game. I'm sure that the After Dark show is going to divulge into what the team does in the future, because when you have games like this, that's normally what it does even in winning seasons. There were years where I was doing this show, like 4 years ago when I first started, and people would call in, the team would be first place in the Atlantic and they'd lose like this, and they're like, it's time, blow it up. This is my first time covering this team in a dark year, so I can't even imagine how these calls are going to end up going. But that's why we're going to rely on some people to come on and join us who have been there, done that. They've seen the darkness. They got to experience the light here over the last little while. Maybe they got to experience the light, and I don't mean this to age them, but before I was even at the point where I was really, truly grasping what it was that I was seeing. One of those people is our next guest here, who's a regular here now on the show, and somebody that I hope to have with us all the way through to the end of the season and in the future as well. Let's welcome in from the Hockey Hot Stove, covering the Maple Leafs, Mike in Buffalo. Mike, I know you're on the same page as I was, but that was the dagger. Like, that's the killer. There was that idea in my head going into this final game, or this game tonight, that over this final stretch until the Olympics, MLSE, Pelly, Tree Living, they're hanging on to the idea. You win 4 here, you go into the break, and things are positive. Instead, you start the road trip with a stinker against the Kraken, and that's got to be it, no?
Dun, 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 dun. This was, consistent with the effort during the 5-game homestand. The 5-game homestand was a disaster. I was in the building covering the game on Tuesday. Not that I expect a team of, 20 and 30-year-olds to get up for Daryl Sittler and, the 50th anniversary, or yeah. It wasn't even the 50th anniversary. The 50th anniversary is February 7th, but it was the last home game before the Olympic break. But, they mailed it in on 2 occasions during that 5-game homestand, and the other games against Vegas and the Sabres, there was just gross incompetence, and that incompetence stretched to tonight. And you look at the box score, look at the line of Matias Maccelli, Matthew Nyes, and John Tavares, a collective -10. I know plus minus isn't an accurate indicator anymore. There's all these, fancy stats. Sometimes plus minus gives you an indicator, and -10 is a big whopping indicator. And
is it ever?
I thought the team was done after the 5-game homestand. And then you see comments from, insiders that I respect, like David Pagnotta, like CJ and Elliot Friedman and Pierre LeBrun. And they're saying the Leafs are in no rush to kick into sell mode. Well, look at the scoreboard tonight, folks. Boston win, Buffalo win, Montreal win, Tampa win, New Jersey win, I'm going to. The Islanders win. Pittsburgh win. Carolina win. Detroit gets a point in a shootout loss. Washington win. Everybody except the Florida Panthers in the Eastern Conference that were close to, tied with, or ahead of the Leafs earned at least a point, and most of them two. Now they're 10 points out of the wild card and third place in the Atlantic. It doesn't take a rocket scientist, Zach. They're done. And it's only a question now of what MLS&E, Keith Pelly, Edward Rogers, and then back down to Brad Treliving do before March the 6th. And I'm not saying tear it down to the studs like I heard some former player and former general manager say. And it's just moronic because I'm sorry, you can't tear it to the studs. There are players with no move clauses, and we'll talk about this. But you need to retool. You need to restore some draft capital. Yep. Players that are on this team that is not working, they need to be moved out, and we'll talk about that.
Yeah, we will. It's a good point, and you brought up there about the retool and restocking assets, and I'm honestly kind of not even sure what direction I want to go in here with you right now. So let's maybe start with the game, and then let's go to that stuff, because I think it's a good point, and I want to get your thoughts on some things, because watching this one, and I don't know which broadcast you were watching here tonight, but Elliot said some stuff in the intermission, and I know people were kind of clowning on him for a couple of the things he brought up, but I actually kind of agree with the direction that he was going and think it's the right approach, similar to what Bourne was saying about how they need to approach the deadline and into the summer. But I think that's a bigger conversation, so let's get tonight's game out of the way first, because I don't think we really... I mean, I say this, and I want to make sure it's clear to people. We're going to break down every single game, and I care about doing the post game and reacting to every game, but you're in a stage here now with the team where it's bigger picture is more important, and I don't think we have too much to say about the team's game tonight that is like too profound, you know what I mean? But one thing I want to start with from tonight's game is we can talk about the moves Treliving made and not bringing in the right guys or whatever. And I think that there were mistakes that were made. I hand up, I thought some of the stuff they did in the summer was great. I still thought there was missing pieces, but it's turned out, even some of those things I thought were going to be really good haven't turned out to be great. Yet, at the same time, there are pieces here on this team that we know can be helping you, and we know could be doing things positively to impact a game. I look at this one tonight, as you had just brought up there. Tavares, -3. Machelli, -3. Matthew Nyes, -4. Scott Laughton tonight plays 12 minutes and 53 seconds. That is less than Tavares, Waugh, who I thought was okay, just okay. I think that was Randy Carlyle. Yeah. Okay, just okay. Like it's like, okay, that's fine. And then you look, I thought McMahon had another good night, but Nyes plays 16 minutes. Domi plays 19:47 here tonight. You know, you look at like Domi is playing 3 minutes more than Bobby McMahon. Obviously, he does get 3 minutes of power play time, so take of that what you will. That's another conversation. But it's looking at a game like this, recognizing guys aren't going. How are you not offering opportunities up to other guys? Nick Robertson tonight played 15 minutes and 58 seconds. That's not enough. Like, we need to also just, I'm sorry I'm taking a long time to get through this, Mike, here, but as a fan base, we need to also just take this in two pieces. Is the best move for the franchise for the remainder of this season to lose? Yes, it is. But what I'm going to talk about here is the decisions that are made proving why you are not in a position to be winning is where I'm trying to get at. Like, in a game you're trying to win, why is Nick Robertson, who was playing really well tonight, was battling for pucks, was hard on the forecheck, was winning battles, was a guy who was creating offense, he scores a goal, why is he playing 15:58? Why is he playing 4 minutes less than Max Domi? Why is he not getting first power play opportunities? Why is Scott Laughton playing 12:53? Why are these decisions being made? And then even like looking before that, Marshall Rafai, come on the road trip, healthy scratched. Jacob Quillen plays 1 game against Colorado, plays 6 minutes in that one. Calle Jarnkrok back in the lineup, does nothing in that game against Buffalo of note, does nothing in this game here tonight. He still gets out there, he still gets minutes. Just the deployment, 15-20 for Calle Jarnkrok tonight. The deployment of guys in these games is astonishing. The roster management in game, and even at this point before games by Craig Berube, is outrageous. And you just see these decisions where it's like, does this mean you're going to win the game? Maybe not, but are you going to be more competitive in a game against Seattle if you apply some of these? Probably. And that's the first guy I'm looking at right now, and I'm just going, how can you continue to make these decisions? And how can you, as Brad Treliving, Keith Pelly, watch these decisions get made and say, this is our guy. This is the guy that we want behind the bench still. It's mind-boggling to me right now, Mike.
Yeah, the decisions that have been made lineup-wise, whether it's players in the lineup or the usage of players during the game, is completely baffling. I mean, I remember, what was it, the Detroit game where Scott Laughton was probably the best or second best forward, and he was under 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And then the next game, they move him up to left wing on the second line, and I think he played 11 or 12 minutes. I can't remember exactly what. But it's like, okay, this guy has been effective for most of the season since coming back from that foot injury. Play him more than 10 minutes. If that means elevating him into the top 9, then you do that. But he's centering the fourth line. They have everybody slotted. He's the 4 behind Waugh, behind Tavares, behind Matthews. Okay, but you can utilize that fourth line more than just 9 minutes. And the fact that Easton Cowan, I think he ended up with
9:30.
9:30. Okay. If you're going to play him 9 minutes, send him to the Marlies.
Yeah. What are we doing?
It's like, right. I mean, this is the thing. And I call it Alex Steves syndrome.
Yep.
You have Jacob Quillen. He was a sought after college free agent. He's playing well in the American Hockey League. You call him up and you don't play him. And a couple times when they actually played him, even in limited minutes, he looked good. He's fast. This team is slow as sin. And I'm like, okay, when this team falls out of it, if Craig Berube does not play the kids, and this is the book on Craig Berube, he didn't play rookies. He didn't play young kids in Philadelphia. The St. Louis team, there weren't many rookies on that team that won the Stanley Cup. You had Robert Thomas was young at that point. Kyrou was young at that point, but he didn't play them major minutes, and he's doing the same thing here. And the future of this team are players like Cowan and maybe Quillen and maybe some other guys with the Marlies, and you don't play them. That is exhibit A of why he should be fired, but he should have been fired in December when they didn't fire him, when they fired Mark Savard, when they threw him into the volcano. And, they got the bump. And now you're back into the into the trough. So it's like, he has no answers. I mean, the frustration that he said after the Buffalo game is clear from that. But I mean, this team is a team with no direction. And tonight, I mean, Anthony Stolarz, his rebound control is horrendous. The goal, the Shane Wright goal, the second goal, where he kicked it right out into the slot, right onto the stick of Shane Wright. Yep. And then 31 seconds later, they score again, and the game is over with. I mean, they cut it to 3-2. They had a power play. But even though Seattle had one shot in the last 10 minutes of the second period, Toronto didn't really have many scoring opportunities in the second, and the best scoring opportunity they had in the third was the power play. And then a few minutes later, they came right down and Shane Wright scored the goal. I mean, it's this team right now is what we think they are, to quote the old Dennis Green line. They are what we thought they were. And what we
Yeah.
thought they were was a team that was going to miss the playoffs. I thought they were going to make the playoffs because I thought their bottom six was better. They'd get the same goaltending they did last year. The injuries have killed them. Players who are playing right now who are injured are killing them because McCabe is not as quick. Maybe Rielly is hurt. We don't know. But a lot of the players are not playing up to their capabilities. And, I mean, right now, Zach, I think there is a malaise with this team. There's a realization that we're not making the playoffs, and now they're just sinking into that malaise. And that, I think that has ended the season.
Yeah, and the thing with the kids, too, that just is astonishing to me is we can talk all we want about the Fraser Minton Carlo trade. That's, I think, beating a dead horse at this point. I just have nothing else to personally add to it. I think at the time, It was the guy that you want to get. He's a 20-year-old defenseman with term left on his deal, and Boston retains salary. The idea is the right idea. I still think it was, the move you probably thought you needed to make, especially with Marner at the end of the deal. You think you have a contending team. You're first in the Atlantic. It's the wrong trade. You traded the wrong guy. Hand up is what it is. There's nothing we can do now at this point other than complain about it. The Kraken trade, okay, you moved on from a guy. I don't think anybody's sitting here right now yelling and screaming the fact that he's gone. It's more the first-round pick. But it's the guys that you lose for nothing that kill me. Because you just refuse to play them. And even beyond Steve's and him going and finding life elsewhere, it's, Pontus Holmberg, who's a Swedish Olympian now and is a really reliable defensive forward in Tampa and a guy that is getting some decent responsibility from John Cooper, who we all pretty much agree is one of, if not the best coaches in the NHL right now. You're just watching these guys leave for free because you're not giving them a chance. And we continue to talk about this team, and maybe it's just too surface level, but it's the easiest descriptor of what this group is: old and slow. So what is an easy solution to old and slow, Mike? Well, it's the young, fast guys you have. You have access to them. Cowan is on your roster. He plays. Yes, he makes some immature and rookie mistakes. I get it. But he's young. He's fast. He's skilled. Nick Robertson, who doesn't get the minutes he should have tonight and was playing fast and skilled, doesn't get to go out there. Jacob Quillen left in the press box. You just refuse to play these guys. Refuse to give them opportunities. No shit. At the end of their time here and at the end of their contracts, they're like, yeah, I'd probably prefer to seek an opportunity elsewhere. And maybe it just doesn't work with them in Toronto, and it's just the city, it's the line mates, it's the system. It's entirely possible those things just don't line up with certain teams. It's not just Toronto that experiences this, but you don't know unless you fucking play the guys, Mike, and there's a complete refusal to even give them a shot right now and put them in this lineup. It's pathetic. It's honestly pathetic to watch this happen night in and night out, especially in a night where you're like, wow, they kind of just got outclassed, outskated, outworked. Was there any way we could have fixed this? No, probably not with the fast, skilled guys you didn't play. What the fuck are we doing? You could have just competed a little bit more.
Well, I mean, and this is going a little bit in the weeds here, but one of the things that you have to be concerned about going forward is, when it was 2015 and 2016, you looked at the Toronto Marlies roster and it had Zach Hyman, Connor Brown, William Nylander, who had come over from Sweden after being drafted first in 2014. There were 3 or 4 other, Andreas Janssen, eventually, Kasper Kapanen. It was a loaded team, the team that won the Calder Cup in 2018. You look at the Toronto Marlies roster right now, with the exception of Quillen, the top 5 scorers: Bo Gruel, 25 years old; Vinny Lettieri, 30 years old, and I think he's on an AHL contract. Logan Shaw, 32 years old. Travis Boyd, 31 years old. Alex Nylander on an AHL contract, 27 years old. Quillen is the only one under the age of 25 who's in the top 6 in scoring on the Toronto Marlies, and yet they won't give him an opportunity. And if I was a undrafted college free agent, and Brad Treliving was saying, yeah, come to Toronto, you have a chance to play with Auston Matthews, you're a liar, because you never give these guys the opportunity. Luke Hames signed with the Leafs. Quillen signed with the Leafs. Like Alex Steeves did out of Notre Dame. And he never got a shot. And even the guys who have NHL experience who came over, like Henry Thrun. I mean, Henry Thrun's a Norris Trophy winner. No. Do I think he's better than some of the crap that's played, like Philippe Myers on this team? Yeah. But do they play him? No. Why? Well, Philippe Myers is big, and Craig Berube knows him from the Philadelphia organization. So there you go. And he played decently last year. This year he played like crap. I know he cost him one game in Buffalo. Him and I think it was Simone Benoit to get. Oh no, him and Dakota Mermis, the pairing that rivals Makar and Devin Taves.
Yeah.
You know, that pairing cost him the game in Buffalo back in, I think it was November. I mean, you know, the lineup decisions, the lineup usage has been pathetic, and it continues to be pathetic.
And last thing, I'll say about this, because I think everybody in Leafs Nation at this point is in agreement on this. You and I are in agreement on this, and over the last 10 minutes here, we've pretty much beaten this thing down as much as we could. But the final piece of it is, you just brought up Thrun. There's a guy in the Marlies right now, Villeneuve, that everyone's kind of chomping at the bit to see what he looks like in an NHL game. And I want to be clear to people here, like, there are guys who are very, very, very good AHL players who never pan out in the NHL, and I mean, we experienced one of them here in Toronto. What was that? TJ Brennan.
Oh God, TJ Brennan. TJ Brennan, who won the AHL version of the Norris Trophy, but he was like 26 or 27 years old when he did.
Yeah, but more so my point is, like, people are like, look at this guy, he's really good in the AHL, and it just doesn't pan out the same way in the NHL. It's possible that that's the case for Thrun. It's possible that's the case for Villeneuve. But again, you don't know unless you play the guys. And, I mean, okay, who's he taking out? Is he taking out OEL? No. Is he taking out McCabe? No. They're not going to take out Morgan Rielly as much as people want him to at this point. They're just not, so come to accept that. But look at the guy who's here, and I'm not saying this to place blame on the guy. I don't even think he's being particularly awful. I don't know if you disagree with me, Mike, but like, Simone Benoit plays 13 minutes and 47 seconds tonight. Okay, you don't want to fucking play the guy. Like, give some kid the chance. Give Thrun that opportunity in that game. Give Rafai the chance. Give Villeneuve the chance. Like, you are just not playing other guys and yet still putting them in your lineup ahead of these people. It's mind-boggling. It's like, nope, this guy's got to have the position over him, and yet when he's got the position and he's holding the roster spot and he's iced in the lineup, he's not even playing that much. What are we doing?
Yeah, Simone Benoit, he plays because he's big and he hits. And, you know, sometimes that's valuable. And, you know, when he was paired with McCabe a couple years ago, he was pretty effective. And they signed him to the extension, and he became Simone Benoit again. When he's not playing with Jake McCabe covering up his defensive issues and he's playing on a bottom pairing with whoever, he's not as good at defense. Now, is he a decent 6'7"? Sure. Would he go? You know, would you get probably a mid-round draft pick by trading him? Sure. And honestly, since this team has 3 picks in the upcoming draft, I'm for making those trades. You know, like right now, like Villeneuve, who had a great junior career and had a really good year last year. Now, here's where I have a problem with the Leaf organization. And this is not exclusive to them. A lot of other organizations do the same thing. When they change over general managers, the previous general manager's prospects get thrown to the wayside. And you could say that happened with Roni Hirvonen, and that happened with the Finnish defenseman who ended up going back to Europe. That shows. Hold on, I'll give it. I'm pulling it up right now.
Top of my tongue.
Topi Niemelä. Topi
Yes,
Niemelä.
thank you. Yes.
So they move on from Topi Niemelä. He goes back, and basically they retain the rights to these guys. But do you think they're ever playing for the Toronto organization again? No. So you've wasted. That's a second and a third round pick. Look at the 2020 draft when the Leafs had 12 draft picks. That was the draft that unfortunately Rodion Amirov was their number one pick, and he passed away.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody in that draft has played a game and they had 12 draft picks. I mean, that's inexcusable. It really is. But that's why now this organization passed the 23 players on the Leafs roster. There's not much to fall back on. And then last year you trade a kid who was playing in the NHL, but Craig Berube didn't want to play him because he was a rookie and he'd make rookie mistakes. He's got 14 goals with the Boston Bruins right now. He had 3 points tonight in a game against Philadelphia, and Nikita Grubyankin also scored for Philadelphia. So if you needed an exclamation point on what's going on right now, there's a 20-year-old center, a 21-year-old winger, and they're not playing for you. They're playing for somebody else.
Yeah, and it was pointed out in the chat by 6 1/3, like Connor Dewar, another guy that was kind of just tossed aside, and I think he's got 14 goals. I was watching that Penguins game earlier tonight. He's a third star in the game.
At least they got a fifth-round pick for him. At least they got something for him. You know what I'm saying?
I guess, yes.
But
It's just guys.
But Craig Berube didn't like him because he was small.
Yeah. Yep. Okay, so enough of the prospects and guys not playing. I think that's one thing you can notably see in a game like this, especially when you bring them on the fucking road trip and then they just don't play. It's extra confusing. But let's go to some of the decisions here tonight, and I want to start with the one to sit Matias Maccelli after that turnover that he had. I got no problem with accountability. I got no problem with saying, hey, that's not the right way to play. You can't make plays like that in your own zone. And to be fair to Craig Berube, he's right. It was a terrible play by Matias Maccelli. He doesn't read the pressure coming in off the pinch by Brandon Montour. Montour, a great play to get his stick inside as Maccelli tries to make that bump pass to the centerman curling through, and he breaks it up. That leads to the Shane Wright goal that makes it 4-2, I think it was at that point. He's right. It's a bad play by Matias Maccelli. But to just pick and choose the accountability moments is something that I think just doesn't hold weight with guys. Great, you sat Matias Maccelli. What does that mean? Like, what lesson does that teach anybody? Because I watched Morgan Rielly, who makes a bad pinch on the first goal that Seattle scores tonight at the blue line. We talked about the one that the Red Wings scored with 30 seconds left, where McCabe, goes and tries to make the pinch. They go in on a 3-on-1 on Carlo, basically, and end up scoring to tie the game with 17 seconds left in the first period against the Red Wings. It's a very similar play. Rielly reads that wrong in the neutral zone, steps up too early, doesn't get the puck or the man, and Seattle goes in the other way, ends up scoring because Rielly comes back, gets lost. Nyes over back checks. In my opinion, I think he was overcorrecting for Morgan Rielly because he wasn't there. Rielly comes back. Nyes comes back out of position. Beniers wide open. He ends up scoring. First shot of the game as well, by the way. But then there's no accountability to Morgan Rielly. He's been playing very poorly here lately, and yet you look at the box score at the end of the night, 22 minutes and 53 seconds for him. That's the most of any defenseman on the Maple Leafs tonight. Mind you, I mean, you look around at some of the other guys. Are there much better options right now? No, not necessarily. Jake McCabe is also struggling. OEL is probably really the only other guy you could look at, but nothing. Rielly, nope, no missing any shifts, right back out there. Like, Craig Berube is watching this guy for weeks and being like, the next game he'll get through this one. And the next game, Mike, guess what? He doesn't get through it. And it's just continuing to pile on here right now where I'm sure even if you ask the player in a candid moment, he's just like, yeah, I'm in a dark place. Like, I'm sure he's in that bad place where it feels like everything he touches turns to shit right now, and there's just no accountability to him. And I'm not saying put the guy in the press box or scratch him until he leaves, but why can't he miss a shift there? Why is there not that accountability from the top end as well?
Because you'd have to play Simone Benoit more if you benched Morgan Rielly. I mean,
I guess, yeah.
Face it, right now he is one of their top 4 defensemen by default. And the problem with Craig Berube is the double standard, like you mentioned. Maccelli gets benched because of a bad giveaway, a bad handling it along the boards. If that was the case, he gets benched for that. Max Domi should be sent to Jupiter, because he has made so many bad defensive plays this season that have cost them goals that he should be banished to the moon. I mean, he's not. And then so the double standard. And Maccelli is somebody who, how long he was scratched for, what, 3 weeks?
Yeah.
It was something like that. It was like 8-9 games where he was a healthy scratch. And then they put him back in the lineup, and then he started to play better. But now he makes a bad play like most of the team has done. And the standard with him is you make that bad play. Like with Nick Robertson, when he makes a bad play, he gets less ice time. And it's like, okay, with Robertson, at least he scores goals. Maccelli is more of a pass guy, and if he's not playing at least competent defensively, he's playing on a second line, and maybe he shouldn't be playing on a second line. Maybe he should be playing on a third line. But Zach, he's played on the first line at the beginning of the season. He's played on the second line with Tavares. He's played on the fourth line. He's played on the third line. What's the common thread there? He hasn't fit on any one of them.
Yeah.
So, that's a disaster and an acquisition. They gave up a 3rd-round pick for him. I don't know if you can recoup that. Maybe you can recoup a 4th or a 5th. But there's another guy that I'm like, see ya, because I wouldn't qualify him. He's $3.4 million, and he's an RFA with ARB rights. Yeah. I wouldn't give him a qualifying offer. No way. So why not trade him now and get what you can for him?
Yeah, that's a fair point. I mean, that's a guy I would be looking at. You and I will get to this shortly here, but guys you'd look at to move on from. But yes, I think just more so my point looking at that is just like, why is that the guy you automatically look at and you're like, you're going to sit for the rest of this? And there are so many other mistakes. And the one that you brought up and I kind of wanted to get to as well, and it's multiple pieces that go into this. And one would be the accountability factor in terms of sitting a guy. And the other piece would be like square peg, round hole that you're trying to fit something into with Max Domi on that first line. It was brought up on the broadcast here tonight was the fact that Max Domi away from Auston Matthews, or when he's not playing with Auston Matthews, was like minus 15 on the year. And then I don't know what the calculation comes out to after tonight. I think that it would be -3 with Matthews here now on the season. They are when you see their 5-on-5 time on ice together and how many goals they've scored versus against. I think they're -3 here now together, but. That's a guy to me who defensively, that's one side that I look at him and I call it the black hole. Like, he's a black hole defensively. He's a guy who is just killing you in your defensive zone. Bobby McMann is at bare minimum holding his weight out there right now on that first line in the defensive zone. I think Auston Matthews, you're watching this guy, he's playing really well. I thought he had a decent night tonight, not like the best night ever for Matthews, but I thought he had a decent night. And then you look at Max Domi. There was about 4 shifts I counted, Mike, in that first period where the first line generated extended offensive zone pressure. They were either cycling for a while, or they were getting shot after shot, or they had a couple dangerous slot chances, or Matthews drove to the middle. Like, they got some chances, and it looked like they had some life. And all 4 of those chances that I counted were broken up or ended by a bad pass or decision by Max Domi or Morgan Rielly. I think it was 3 for Max Domi and 1 for Morgan Rielly to end those chances in the first period. That can't be happening when it's a guy stepping out towards the top of the circle or at the blue line and making an ill-advised, forced pass because he thinks if he threads this needle, he's ending up on the top 10 tomorrow morning on the highlight package. You can't be making those decisions, and yet there you go, Max. 19 minutes and 47 seconds of ice time here tonight, which is second amongst all forwards for the Toronto Maple Leafs. It is so, like, I want to say mind-boggling, but it's not even that. It's like making me want to pull my hair out watching him do this over and over and watching Craig just continue to give him the tap. And on top of that tonight, Mike, he's rewarded with power play one time. And I'm not trying to say, like, oh, I can't believe you take Matthias Michelli off of there, but, like, Easton Cowan's a skilled, creative kid. Nick Robertson is a shooter. You came on my show not too long ago, and you were the one who said you have one shooter. You have one shooter. Why is your power play so stale? You have one shooter. Nick Robertson can shoot the puck. So why can't you find a way to fit him into that first power play in the absence of William Nylander? Like, how can you just reward that guy in Max Domi with more and more ice time when the play is not there defensively and he is making such ill-advised plays offensively that are just counteracting any positive that are done?
I mean, there's no way to know this for sure, but I mean, the chatter out there is, Matthews really likes Max Domi, and Max Domi is a good playmaker, and that basically they're attached at the hip in terms of being on the same line. And like you said, I mean, he's a complete liability. When he played center on the third line, he was worse defensively than he is right now, and he's bad defensively now. Second, third line, I mean, I think he doesn't deserve to be anything higher than second line, but then you're playing him with a slower John Tavares, and his defensive issues, exacerbate even more. So at least Auston Matthews is quick enough to get back and cover up sometimes. So you're sort of stuck. Domi is he's in the Mitch Marner slot because he's a good playmaker, but he's not Mitch Marner because Mitch Marner can actually play defense. And even though Mitch Marner is not exactly a tough guy along the wall, he's clever enough to get the puck out of the zone when Max Domi can't. I mean, when the other team is cycling, Max Domi is a complete you would think he's a fire plug type of guy. He's strong, and he cannot win one damn stick battle, puck battle along the wall. He's horrible, but you can't play him at center because he's horrible there too. So you're stuck. And this guy, I think he's got 2 more years left on his contract. So Good luck, folks.
Yeah. I don't get it, man. I don't get it. Like, you watch those plays develop. You watch McMahon go to work in the cycle and recover pucks and continue ozone possessions. You watch Matthews work like a dog right now to get pucks back, and you see him kind of making plays and stick handling in a phone booth, and you see the work that he's doing, and I say it's physicality that he's displaying, and I know a lot of people will say, well, he's not a physical guy, he doesn't go out there and mash guys, but when I talk about Auston Matthews and physicality, it's like using his back the way that he does in the corners and below the net to win battles and make plays and get himself open and get himself ice. Like, that's the physicality from Auston Matthews that he hasn't typically exerted over the last year and a half until this point, whether it was health or what. He just wasn't doing that. Now he is. And then it's like you spend 40 seconds in the ozone, 45 seconds, and then you get Max Domi, who's making a pass to Oliver Ekman-Larsson that's 6 inches outside the blue line on his backhand side that he's got to try and make a play on. That actually ends up leading to Ekman-Larsson running into Berkeley Catton, and taking him out of the game. That's one of the examples right there. OEL gets jammed up, tries to save the puck into the offensive zone, can't. It comes back out. Dangerous opportunity where Seattle could be off the other way, and it's that starts with Max Domi making a bad play. It starts with Max Domi making bad plays in the neutral zone, in the offensive zone, not protecting the puck, not being responsible with it. And yet, there you go. He continues to get the ice time. And just for people here in the chat, I want to get them involved in this, Mike, here as well. Proceeds from our super chats go to Sick Kids Charity. You want to get your question, your comment, your thought, your concern, whatever it is, rants, frustrations, I don't care. Send them in. Proceeds from our super chats go to Sick Kids Charity, Canada's #1 research-intensive children's hospital, #3 in North America. I think this season already, we've raised like $4,300 for sick kids. Last year, as a whole, over the entire season, we raised 44. So we're on pace right now in January to blow past that. And that's all thanks to the people in the chat. So greatly appreciate that. But Mike, this one comes in from Tammy. When does Berube start to take accountability for using the same shitty lineups, mismanaging the roster, etc., instead of deflecting to his players? I think that's probably... I don't think we're going to see him go out there and be like, well, I fucked that one up tonight or whatever. But I think it's kind of a funny thing to read after a game like this when it's like, you don't put kids in, you play Calle Yarncroke as much as you do, you play Max Domi as much as you do. He's just continuing to run these guys out there, and yet after it's like, ask those guys. I'll never forget that comment for the rest of my life. Some of that stuff is just confusing to me. I know there's probably a frustration from his behalf that he has some of the guys he has, and maybe he doesn't like them, and that's a comment or a shot at Brad Treliving. But I mean, let's be honest, the utilization of guys in game is poor by Craig Berube, and we just haven't seen any type of ownership on it by him in any sort of way.
Well, if Craig Berube is trying to follow the Sean McDermott playbook by insulting his general manager by, like saying, I don't have the right players or whatever, that got McDermott fired in Buffalo, and he made the playoffs 8 years or 9 years in a row. I mean, the frustration from Berube after the Buffalo game where he's saying, well, the players and the goaltenders, we need to save. We scored enough goals. He scored, I think it was 12 goals on the 5-game homestand. That's a little over 2 goals a game. That's not enough unless you have the Andrei Vasilevsky in goal or Dominic Hasek. You know what I'm saying? It's like you needed to score more goals. And you needed to play better defensively. And this team has not played well defensively consistently, except for that stretch of 10 games all year. They have not played well. I mean, their goaltending has been average. I mean, Joseph Woll played really well for a stretch. Last few games, he played really good against Detroit. He played really well against Colorado. And then he's had a few stinkers. Anthony Stolar, since he's come back, has been a sieve. He was terrible against Vegas, and he was terrible tonight. I think he was responsible. I mean, the one goal, the right goal was top corner. He wasn't going to stop that, but he was responsible for, I think, 2 of the goals. And that was, that they lost by 3. So, and the one was an empty netter. So that was the difference between winning and going into the third going at the end of the game tied 2-2. So They didn't get great goaltending. Their defense has been terrible. Like I said, they're caught in this malaise. Do I think Berube is going to take accountability? He's sort of avoided accountability all season, and he skirted it when the organization threw Mark Savard under the bus. I don't know whether it's Keith Pelly saying to Brad Treliving, you don't have the authority to fire Craig Berube, or Treliving knowing that he's not going to get a second hire after Craig Berube, and that maybe they're joined at the hip. But yeah, he is accountable, and maybe he's the wrong coach for this team. But the problems with this team, the dysfunction with this team is greater than the coach.
Yes, that's correct. And I mean, I would say myself as well, if there is an issue here from Keith Pelly down that they don't have the authority to fire the coach, I think that speaks to bigger and broader issues within MLSC and the organization as a whole. Because if you're watching this and saying, no, you got to battle through, either it's just they've decided to quit as well, or they're just not interested in this, or I don't even know, but that's a concern for me as well. Is there anything else from tonight's game in particular? Also, by the way, quickly, I will just say the other thing is with Stolarz, like, I would even almost say 3. Like the first goal by Beniers is the first shot of the game. It goes through him. It's point blank, but like it's the first shot of the game, and it did go through him. The right goal is I put that. Yes, it's soft, poor defending, and you let Shane Wright get open, but that's a. Yeah, I mean he threw a Dwayne Wade like alley-oop lob pass to LeBron James effectively to Shane Wright in the slot, and just was like, here you go, grab this thing. And then Shane Wright buries that. And then the Montour goal that he scores, it's like through Stolarz' legs there again. It's not necessarily ones that I think are like the most atrocious goals ever in terms of the first one and the third one, but they're goals that he for sure should have or could have had. So especially if your goaltender is on, and he just hasn't been right now. But anything else from this game here tonight, Mike, before I start asking you some more big picture questions? Because I want to get your thoughts, and I have some myself on things, and I just want to bounce stuff off of you.
Yeah, well, just Shane Wright is supposedly on the trade block. He'd look good in blue and white, wouldn't he?
Okay, so let's do this. So, I saw a lot of people online it's very divided in Leafs Nation right now, and understandably so. But what to do with the team going forward? You brought up people saying tear it to the studs, which I think is probably not the right. Yeah, you said it. I think it's not the right approach for, especially right now. If things are not in the right direction a year from now, okay, that's a different conversation. 1 year left on Matthews' deal. Whatever, you make your decisions as they come up, or even during next season if it's going sideways. Then okay, sure. But I don't think that has to be right now. I think you're in a good enough position. You've got enough of a contract, or a runway left, I should say, on Matthews and Nylander's deals here. You've got those guys. You've got Nyes. I'm not trying to give them the excuse, because this is not the reason this is happening, but you're dealing with a condensed schedule and banged up bodies. It's a reality of the situation. So I think that there is that positivity. Like, you do have Joseph Wall. You have Dennis Hildeby. You've got Easton Cowan, who's up and coming. You've got these other the two big superstars, and Matthew Nyes, a extra piece. So people, where they are divided is add, sell, tear it to the studs, what you do. I think I'm in line, and I'll give him the shout out with Elliot Friedman and what he said here tonight, where you have to get rid of assets, but you have to start to position yourself for the future, where you can kind of, use your pro scouts, if you trust them, to set you up for success in the future. And a lot of people, that's what people scoffed at, and they said, oh, look at this guy, what a brilliant statement, relying on your pro scouts. I don't know who the guys are right now. I'm not a pro scout. No shit. I'm sitting in this chair talking about things. I'm not a fucking pro scout. But you need your NHL scouts who are at games every single night finding these players. And those are the kinds of guys you might be able to find back in deals. Maybe there's guys you find who are in buy low positions that can help you going forward. And those are the guys I don't mind adding. You said Shane Wright. That's a guy I've thrown out there that I like. He brought up tonight during their intermission panel, Robert Thomas. It's expensive. It's a lot of pieces for the future. But let's be clear. He's a 26-year-old second-line center who's got 5 years left on his deal and makes, I think, $8.5 million. Very good contract. Can push John Tavares down. Like, if those are the pieces you're getting, I've got no problem with adding. Where I have a massive problem with adding is when I see the Leafs are attached to conversations with Artemi Panarin and Luke Shen and Dougie Hamilton. That is the type of shit that makes me sick to my stomach right now, Mike, because if that's what they are doing, you need to go in that office, you need to change the passcode to enter Ford Performance Center and Scotiabank Arena, and you need to take Brad Treliving's phone and keys away if those are the deals that he is looking to make right now, because that is the complete opposite direction of the stuff you should be doing with this team right now. That is where I say it's okay to add, but it has to be the right approach in mind. Where do you stand on that?
Okay. If you're adding, you're not adding rentals. You're not adding, Luke Shen is the same, he's 34, 35 years old. He's the seventh defenseman on the team that's one of the worst teams in the league, most disappointing teams in Winnipeg. He's probably going to end up going back to Tampa because Tampa is short of defensive players, and he's been in Tampa and he won 2 cups in Tampa. So I'll bet you anything that's where he ends up. But
he's going to go there and thrive. You just know.
Of course, in limited minutes, he'll be hitting people through the boards. That's fine. I mean, where the Leafs are right now, it makes no sense. I mean, 3 weeks ago when they were still in the race, adding him and having him play instead of Philippe Myers said, I was saying, yeah, go ahead, but not anymore. The Toronto thing with Artemi Panarin came out of Kevin Weeks, and if you look at the tweet that he tweeted out, he had about 10 teams on there. So I think it's a case. I think it's a case of throw Toronto in there just to get everybody pissed off and just to get some attention. What was the other player that was? Dougie Hamilton.
Dougie Hamilton.
Okay. As soon as Luke Hughes got hurt, I think Dougie Hamilton's possibility of being traded went down the drain. Because if New Jersey wants to stay in the playoff race, they need Dougie Hamilton running their power play and playing elevated minutes. And Luke Hughes, I mean, I don't know if it's a dislocated shoulder, didn't have surgery, but he's going to be out for a while. So I think Dougie Hamilton's not going to get traded. I'm in full sell mode, not tearing it to the studs. That's stupid. And I've seen former general managers and former players, even a Hall of Famer. I'm not going to mention names. You can draw your conclusions by the people that have been saying tear it to the studs. And it's just asinine. It really is. It's stupid because when you have a player who arguably is, I would say, in the top 5 in the NHL still, even though he had a 33-goal season last year, you don't trade that guy. You build, and he's 28 years old. You don't trade that guy. You build around him. And the insinuation was they didn't win, and they didn't win with him. I know, but because as we've said for many years, this team has not had the right support structure around, and because the reason they didn't have the support structure is because they paid 4 players $40 million or half the cap, and that crippled them. The problem with trying to trade the players that everybody seems to want to trade is that you're not going to get the value that you expect for them. William Nylander has a no movement clause, which means he's in the same position as Artemi Panarin. Now, he's got 5 or 6 years left in his contract, so it's not a rental situation. But he's got the same control over the situation as Panarin does. Okay. He's like, okay, I'm only going to go to 2 or 3 teams. Automatically, the general manager of the Maple Leafs, whoever it is, Brad Treliving or somebody else, they're locked in by that. So you can only talk to 2 or 3 teams that he wants to go to. And those teams are not going to be giving them players off their roster and their top prospects. They know that Toronto wants to trade them then, and they're going to give, they're not going to give them a boat anchor, but they're going to give them less than Toronto would expect. So there's no benefit unless you're getting a deal where you're getting equal value, at least for Nylander. You can't trade him. And Matthews, you just rule that out of hand. You mentioned Robert Thomas. The only way they're getting Robert Thomas is by trading Matthew Nyes, because Thomas is a center. He's making, he said 8.5. Nyes is locked up long term. Yeah, Nyes is locked up long term at 7.75 for another 5 years. He's 23 years old. That's probably a deal that Doug Armstrong or Alex Steen does. But again, is Robert Thomas the cure-all? Is he you go to Lord's and you the water falls all over? I mean, I think he's a good center. I think he's a nice number 2 to Matthews. Does he cure all their ills? No, there are too many ills to cure. That's the problem. There's multiple issues here. Their defense is getting old and slow. They don't have a true number 2 center anymore. They're slow. Some of these things can be rectified fairly quickly. We saw what Boston did in terms of the retool. Yeah. I mean, the problem here is, one, they have no draft capital, and I think they have to recoup some of that. You've got they bring in Mark Leach as the director of amateur scouting. This is the guy who was behind a lot of the picks that the Dallas Stars made. You're talking about Stankoven, and you're talking about, Heiskanen and Essa Lindell and all these guys, Jason Robertson, all these players. This guy was part of that, and you bring him in, it's a coup. You only have 3 draft picks. You got a third, a fifth, and a sixth. I mean, what the hell can this guy do with it? Yeah. So you've got to recoup some draft capital to be able to take advantage of somebody who actually knows what they're doing. So that's one thing. And to your point, pro scouting, look what Boston did with some of the players that now, Tanner Jeannot was a disaster in terms of a free agent signing. The guy, that was 6 weeks. Multi-years on him at the money that they spent was a joke. But
that was the one contract everybody watched happen in real time and went, what the fuck was that? And then it's still, what the fuck was that right now? So he's a Bruin. He's a Bruin type player. He's a physical player. But he stinks. He had one good year and he's never repeated it. I would have taken a flyer on him in a 1-year deal, but I think it was a 6-year deal. That was nuts. But the point is, you have to have some recognition of talent that's out there. Like, okay, say everybody's talking about Bobby McMahon. Mm-hmm. And Bobby McMahon should be traded. Not because Bobby McMahon is not good, but because Bobby McMahon on a new contract is probably going to cost them anywhere from $4 to $5 million. Yep.
Okay. So he's 29 years old. You're probably going to have to sign, whoever signs him is going to probably have to sign him for 4 or 5 years, which means you're signing him to 33 or 34 years old. And right now, he's fast, he's big, he scored 20 goals last year, he's going to score 20 goals this year. Everybody knows in Toronto, he had 20 goals, I think, in March, and then he didn't score for the remaining 24 regular season and playoff games. He disappeared, he fell off the planet. So, he's a Wainwright, Alberta native, and the Edmonton Oilers and Edmonton Oilers Reddit and Edmonton Oilers Twitter is going crazy. Ooh, we can get Bobby McMahon. Okay, great. We'll trade him to you. How about giving us Isaac Howard back? Or Isaac Howard or Matthew Savoy?
Yeah.
Because I don't know about Matthew Savoy. He was a top 10 pick with the Sabres. They traded him off. He played well in the American Hockey League. He hasn't broken through in the NHL. Neither is Howard, and Howard was a first-round pick of Tampa Bay, but he's lighting up the AHL right now. But he's a quick, skilled winger. And I'm like, okay, but he's 5'10". Do you think Craig Berube wants him? No, but I don't think Craig Berube is going to be around. But the point is, you're getting somebody who could be inserted into the NHL, into your NHL roster for a player who's a rental. And then he's probably re-signing in Edmonton because that's his hometown team or close to hometown team. But if he doesn't, you could tell him before you trade him, hey, Bobby, we'd love to sign you, but we need to get the asset for you.
Yeah.
That's the reality here. And the same thing with Scott Lawton. You could probably get, I know a lot of people want to re-sign Scott Lawton. I understand why. But what? You can't trade him and then re-sign him in the summer? You telling me he wouldn't want to go to Dallas or Colorado or Vegas or a team that has a chance to win a Stanley Cup and then come back to his hometown team? I'm sorry. That makes them...
Dallas and Colorado, maybe some teams with draft capital or players that have been drafted by guy you just named, who was part of some of those, who are coming, Mark Leach, who are coming up, and maybe he identifies, hey, there's some guys there. Now, I don't know, maybe Dallas is looking at that and they're like, I don't know if we want to give up some of these prospects if Mark Leach is interested. But at the same time, it's a good point by you in terms of the Isaac Howard and the Matt Savoy conversation. I don't know that Isaac Howard is a guy that Edmonton would want to give up. Obviously, here they did move off of who did they trade to Tampa to get him from Fuck.
Oh, yeah, God.
But anyways,
Yeah,
they traded a high end guy themselves to get Howard because they thought he was going to jump in. So maybe that's not a piece. But the point is, hey, here's a guy who maybe hasn't broken in yet. Maybe we can get him in here. We can give him playing time.
Sam
We can give
O'Reilly.
him Sam O'Reilly. Thank you. We can give him opportunities, and we can fit him in here, and he can fit here. And I see a lot of people in the chat saying right now, oh, why would you do this guy? He's never done anything. Why would you do that guy? He's never done anything. The point is, you're at an organizational stall where you don't have young guys, you don't have up and coming pieces, you don't have the young speed, you don't have any type of future coming through the pipeline. All you've done ever is acquire older guys with pedigree who have proven something, and you've brought them in and it hasn't worked. It's now time to try something else. Maybe you find that piece like Kushnadinov, like what Boston did, and he comes in and he fits in your system and he works well. You find the piece who the Penguins identified, Connor Dewar. And I know that it didn't work out here, but they looked at him and said, hey, we can get that guy for a late round pick. Let's try it. And I'm not saying the Leafs should be giving up picks. That's obviously the opposite of what I'm saying. No. But if you're getting rid of players right now, maybe you identify these guys and rely on your amateur and rely on your pro scouts to find them elsewhere. If the goal is to retool, that is, I think, the direction you should be looking. And you look at a guy like McMahon, Oliver Ekman-Larsson, Brandon Carlo, Jake McCabe. If one of the goaltenders, I'm not actively shopping Joseph Woll, but if somebody calls you and offers you something that is like, oh my God, why would you not entertain this? You know what I mean? Like, if there are people calling and offering on these guys, you need to be entertaining this at this point to do that and start to reload, whether it's picks or young pieces who can fit into your NHL lineup now or in a year from now. I think that that's the smart and responsible thing to do organizationally if you're the Maple Leafs.
In the goaltending situation, I mean, Hildeby next year is not waiver exempt. So you're going to have to make a decision. I think most Leaf fans would say, if Anthony Stolarz gets traded, call me and I'll Uber him for free to the airport. But the thing is, I don't know how many teams would take Anthony Stolarz with 4 years. Not even, he hasn't even started his new contract. The AAV on that was good based off of what he did last year, but the term was questionable, and we know his injury history. And now, I still would like to know what nerve issue that he had, that he was day-to-day for 2 months. But he should have stayed on the IR, because honestly, since he's come off, he looks like he's still injured. To me, the goaltending tandem next year needs to be Woll and Hildeby, and they need to find some way to trade Anthony Stolarz, even if they get a 7th round draft pick for him. So, I mean, to me, that would be my solution. I'm with you on, OEL is never going to be as valuable as he is right now.
That's the point, too. Yeah.
Yeah. He's a $3.5 million cap hit, which basically, he arguably is having his best offensive year at age 34. He's got term left. I think it's 2 years. 3.5. So, okay. So a team that is, a team that's looking for a mid pairing, pairing guy play 20 minutes, who's offensively capable, who still can move. I mean, are you telling me you can't get, I don't know if you can get a 1st round pick unless it's like a conditional 1st round pick from a contender, but if Florida was in it, they would trade for him because they know him. But if, Dallas, Colorado, Vegas, some of the contenders in the East looking for like a veteran defenseman, are you telling me they wouldn't give up a prospect and maybe a 2nd round pick, a conditional 2nd round pick? I think you could get that for him. I think you could get, with Brandon Carlo, right shot defenseman, big playoff experience, you can recoup that 1st round pick. In fact, the Boston Bruins might be interested in him, You won't get your own first round pick back. You might get theirs. You're not going to get Fraser Minton back, but you might get something else. But I'm saying there is a way to recoup draft capital. And I think that's important because your organization right now is fairly bereft of prospects. You've got Cowan, who's in the NHL. You've got Ben Danford. You've got Holinka. You've got a couple others. And that's about it. And that's the cupboard is barren, folks, and you need to restock it.
Yeah, 100%. This is when you start to add those picks and prospects back into this. I know a lot of people want to place blame on Brad Treliving for selling off of guys, and he's definitely at fault here in it. He had a hand in it, but this is a problem that had started even prior to him, and it's just been 9 years of getting rid of that, and you just never had guys coming through. Now, mind you, Treliving came in, and as Mike pointed out here, there was a reluctance to give guys opportunities, and you kind of just threw them away, but at the same time, it wasn't like you just loaded up on guys who were banging at the door to get through and play for this team. So it's time to fix things when it comes to the young pieces that come through, and I just think you need to have a fresh approach to this where you start to look at what can you bring in that, you know, the Florida Panthers and the Tampa Bay Lightning and the Dallas Stars and the Colorado Avalanche have had success, and there's numerous other teams, but I just named those off the top of my head, but numerous examples of them having success of identifying a player who's younger or maybe not having the best output and production on another team in another organization that can maybe come to yours and fit in and make an impact for you. I think that's where you're at if you're the Maple Leafs, and that's where you've got to start to make some changes, Mike. And then I think, obviously, when you get to the summer, the one that has to happen, and I think it's got to be handled. I keep having this argument with people in my chat because people want to just kill this guy off, but I'm like, you don't want to do what the New York Rangers did. Like the example is keeps getting brought up is Trouba and Morgan Rielly. Do not do that. That is one of those moves that if you handle that incorrectly, you can just torch this whole thing. You want to talk about tearing it to the studs? That will be one of those ones where you're going to have to, because if you go in there and you treat Morgan Rielly like shit, as much as people may not like the guys that are here and the core pieces that are here, it becomes a little bit difficult if they start showing up on the door and saying, hey, we're out of here, we're done. And now your hands forced because they're not happy with the treatment of that. And now word gets out to the rest of the NHL that this is what you've done to your players. You just need to handle this carefully. That's all I'm saying. But I think when you get to the summer, Morgan Rielly's a piece that has to go here as well, Mike. I think that's one of those ones where it's just like, you were a great soldier. You bleed blue and white. I've got no problem with him as a person. I think what he did here while he was here was awesome. He worked his balls off, no problem. It's just run stale. And I don't know that what he brings to the table is something that we can handle as a fan base for the next however many years at the cap hit that he's coming in at.
I've given this a lot of thought when it comes to Rielly. You know, he's the longest serving Leaf. He's on pace to eclipse Boreas Salming as the leading, as the all-time scoring Leaf defenseman. I don't know how far he is behind, but it's pretty close.
Yeah.
They went to him this past summer, said, do you want to go anywhere? And he said, no. And he's got the no move clause.
I know.
If he doesn't want to go, he's not going to go. So you can, and if you get mean with him, like, okay, they should have gotten really mean with Mitch Marner, but they didn't. What they should have done is say, Mitch, you know what? It may not help us, but unless you agree to waive your no move clause, we're not going to play you. You're not going to play. I mean, that's unrealistic. They wanted to win, so they weren't going to do that. And they may have alienated everybody else. But if you treat a potential free agent like Mitch Marner, or if you treat the longest serving Leaf like Morgan Rielly, if you treat them like crap, you will never get a big name free agent to sign with you again.
Exactly.
Because you treated them like crap. And, you know, I mean, for all their failings, you know, the Maple Leafs have a reputation of being a classy organization. So you don't want to throw that down the drain.
Yep.
What I thought is, and what might be the solution here, is buying out Morgan Rielly. He's
Yeah.
got 4 years left at $7.5 million. There's no signing bonus. Thanks to our friends at Puckpedia, cap hit $3.5 million for 4 years, $2 million for 4 more years after that. It's an 8 cap hit, but with the cap going up to 100 and whatever, that's basically an average defenseman. That's Justin Hall's contract with the Detroit Red Wings, and he's not an average defenseman. He's a pitiful defenseman. But my point is that if you think he's that much of a liability, at least you save face with the organization in terms of where, you can say, well, he's going to be better someplace else. We need to move on. See you, Morgan. We hope you have a great career someplace else. Okay. But the problem is, who do you replace Morgan Rielly with? There is, the biggest free agent defenseman on the market next year might be Darren Radish.
Yeah.
Who's having a big year with Tampa Bay. There are no like big time free agent defensemen, and if they are, they're going to cost Darren Radish is probably going to get $5-6 million because he had such a big year, filling in for Victor Hedman and all those other defensemen who've gotten hurt in Tampa Bay. That's the problem. There's nobody out there to replace Morgan Rielly. Maybe you get away with playing him in a lesser role, not playing him major minutes. It's not playing 23 like he played tonight, playing him 17 or 18 on the second pairing with a defenseman like a Carlo who can cover up for his defensive issues. That might be the solution too. The thing is, I don't know whether they're better without him or better with him in a reduced role. We'll have to see. We'll have to see who the coach is. We'll have to see what the new general manager, if they fire Treliving, what they will do. But I don't know. I mean, I'm not as optimistic about them being able to force Morgan Rielly to accept to waive his no move clause to go someplace else.
I think probably the most realistic and most reasonable solution, Mike, is what you just brought up, and it is a buyout, and it's a tough one to swallow, and it's also then going to unfortunately come back to MLSE. And by the sounds of things right now, it sounds like they're not willing to spend that much extra money, whether it be for fired coaches or fired GMs or players being bought out or directors of sports science. It seems like they don't have the most interest in paying some of those guys. So who knows if they'll be interested in paying Morgan Rielly for 8 years to not play here. But I do think that that's probably the most realistic because, look, man, I know people are like, you got to get ruthless with this and force the guy out. There's some things to me that just the karma of it all is... It's just no bueno. It's the same thing like people brought up earlier this year, the John Tavares stuff. He was playing really well before Christmas, and the team was in a slide at that point when he was playing well, and people were coming to the postgame being like, you need to trade John Tavares. I'm like, dude, that's one of those ones like, you trade the guy who was the hometown kid who came back here and was the captain and then took a discount to stay here because we know he could have gotten more on the open market both times, Mike. He could have had 13 from San Jose and he came here and then he's taking this one and you're going to trade the guy. That's like a hockey karma move you just never recover from. And I think the same thing happens if you do this and you forcefully remove Morgan Rielly. If it's a buyout, different situation. If you just kick the guy down and kick him out the door, that's a scary one. That's just like I don't feel right about that. And maybe I'm an idiot to thinking about the hockey gods, but I do think about the hockey gods.
Fans just do not understand the concept of a no move clause. They really don't. I mean, and I understand it because like the frustration, you're like, I don't want this guy gone. We need to flush this team down the toilet. We need to move on. Believe me, I've heard it all before. On hold for Leaf Talk with Andy Frost. Believe me, I was not the one making those points. I mean, I was the one saying the no move clause is there and they're going to use it. If it's not their agent that's telling them that, it's the PA that's telling them that. They're not waiving their no move clause.
Yeah.
You can't slip them money under the table to waive the no move clause. They got the no move clause because they don't want to go anywhere. That's why it's stupid to give no move clauses. That's why we had the Muskoka Five. They all had no trades or no moves, and nobody would go anywhere because they were all, they were all comfortable playing in Toronto. They loved it. Matt Sundin turned the fan base against him because he wouldn't waive to go play in Montreal or Philadelphia for 2 months at the end of his contract. He could have come back to Toronto and signed another deal. Instead, he went to Vancouver for a half a season, but he didn't want to. And I think that turned the stomach of a lot of Leaf fans for a long time. And now he's forgiven. I don't know if Mitch Marner's ever going to be forgiven, but the whole point with this is no movement clauses are there for a reason. They're negotiated. These players won't give them up. And unless Morgan Rielly gets pelted with rotten tomatoes, his family lives here. He's played here his entire career. I think breaking Boreas Salming's record means something to him. I believe the no move clause drops in a couple more years. I mean, if you think he's spent and shot, then you're going to have to buy him out. I don't think he's spent and shot. I just think he's not the player that he was. And that's the problem here, Zach. He's a player that relied on his speed to recover from defensive giveaways or issues, and he still has not adjusted to being a slower player. Some players can do that. Some player like Phil Housley later in his career became a much better defensive defenseman, but earlier in his career he relied on his speed, and he slowed down later in his career and he adjusted. Morgan Rielly needs to adjust. I just don't know whether he can or not.
Yeah, and I do think that probably the deployment and the coach and the systems and stuff that are happening right now, whether you think they're good or not, I don't think that they help, because since Berube came here, things have fallen off a cliff for Morgan Rielly. It was never unbelievable before, but under Sheldon Keefe, it was much more manageable. And under Craig Berube, it's been a lot more difficult to put him out there and to watch him night in, night out. So, yeah, I don't know, man. It's an interesting one, but it's almost one of those things where it's like, it feels like just like a tie to the past and tie to things that haven't been successful. And I do think a more limited role would help, but I think you're also looking at $7.5 million, unfortunately. Whether that's fair or not, that's associated with him, and that makes it a little bit difficult to stomach when you're like, that's your highest paid defenseman, and he's now got to be playing a third pairing role or whatever it may be. But that's not a deal that's happening at the deadline. So let's be clear about that. No. I don't think there's any possible way that there's any move that happens with Morgan Rielly, unless he goes to them and says, get me out of here, which I don't see happening either.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't think it's so untenable and so negative in terms of the city hating Morgan Rielly that he's going to say, get me out of here. I mean, you have to remember the Larry Murphy syndrome. He could go someplace else. And, everybody said, well, he's terrible here. And Larry Murphy was terrible in Toronto. And then he went to Detroit and won a couple Stanley Cups with the Red Wings. They fit him in the role that he could fill. Yep. And he succeeded. And I know the game is different now and speed is king, but there are slow defensemen in this league, and he's not slow. He's just slower than he was. Earlier in his career, Morgan Rielly was a top flight skating offensive defenseman. He's not that fast anymore. Now he's probably an average skater. Sometimes he looks like he's skating in quicksand, but I think he's an average skater. He just has to adjust his game a little bit and not take so many chances and pinching in, because he can't recover. He can't get back anymore. And that's the problem. Whether he's capable of adjusting his game, I don't know. But the $7.5 million price tag, just like, I mean, you have to forget about it, because, I mean, they knew that he was going to slip at some point in that 8-year contract. It's just happened in the first half of it. And now you still have the second half of it at that same amount. I mean, with each year that goes by, the buyout becomes less. So you could look at it that way.
Yeah, good point. Good point, Mike. All right, thanks for your time tonight, Mike. I really appreciate it. Stuck with me here until 2 a.m. Eastern as of right now, 1 hour and 20 into this show. So I do really appreciate it. It is a little bit therapeutic for me to just spew the stuff that I spew out there and be able to go back and forth with you, whether it's about the games or the season as a whole or what to do moving forward. So, Mike, thank you very much for the time. You want to let people know where they can find you, find your stuff, and then obviously we're happy to have you back here. I mean, we'll have you back many times throughout the remainder of the season. I'm sure of it.
I'll be available, and thanks, Zach. My website, Hockey Hot Stove, where I cover the Leafs. I write every day on the Leafs, and I'll be saying some of the same that I said tonight, tomorrow with my column covering the Leafs.
All right, Mike, thank you very much. Make sure everybody goes and checks that out. Appreciate it here. I still got more to do, so don't go anywhere, anybody in the chat. I still got more to do, but Mike, thank you as always. I was going to say enjoy the rest of your night. It's 2 a.m., so you enjoy your sleep, and we'll talk tomorrow.
Thanks, Zach.
There you go. Mike in Buffalo. Always appreciate him stopping by here. On the post-game show, I said it, we've got more to do here on this post-game. It's 2 a.m. There's about 700 people watching here still following Game 54 against the Seattle Kraken. I was wondering, I'm like, season's over basically after the loss to Buffalo the other night. What is going to happen with the chat, with the viewers, especially when you have a 10 p.m. Eastern start time here against the Kraken? You get your shit pumped against the Kraken and everybody still shows up, so we got more to do. I opened up the call lines. You want to call into the show, you want to give your thoughts and let me know how you feel. Click on that call-in link. The Zoom link is there. I want to hear how everybody feels about tonight's game. Leafs fans, hockey fans, whatever it is. We had Nick from Columbus, or at least he was a Columbus fan the other day, call in. We had a Carolina, an anonymous Canes fan call in. I still want to find out who that was. He said related to people or was around the Canes organization. So still kind of curious who that could have been, but called into the show, just giving their thoughts on the Leafs and everything that's happened and just asking some questions. So anybody wants to call in, you're always welcome. The link is pinned there. We're going to answer calls, but we've got more stuff to get to here on the post game, including more super chats. And a reminder, proceeds from our super chats, they go to Sick Kids Charity. You want to get your question, your comment, your concerns, whatever it may be, read on the show. We send in those super chats. You click the little $sign, you type your message, you select the amount you want to send, you click send, and I will read and answer them all. Mobius Strip says, bench Morgan Rielly, period, full stop. I do agree that at least in these games, minutes should be taken away from him. I know the alternative is like, Simone Benoit or Jake McCabe get more minutes, Jake McCabe's not playing very well right now, but it's just, okay, like, what else are we going to do? Because he's playing really poorly and making some terrible decisions and some terrible plays and some terrible reads, and yet we still continue to run the guy out there. I do think it would make sense for him to miss shifts. Maxentius Decimus, don't tell Nyes how many points back they are now. Yeah, I mean, if the guys don't know now, I don't know what to tell them. I appreciate Nyes for saying that. Like, what else is he going to say? Oh, it's over. We're quitting. We're done. It's over. We're calling it quits. He's not going to say that. Like, that's reality of the situation. That said, it was a little bit out of touch. Let's call it that. Huggies R says, I know this fool Zach loves to profit off Leafs losses. Nope, not at all. We've talked about this numerous times. I love this team. I love the Maple Leafs, and I want them to desperately win a Stanley Cup. It is infuriating. It's just nice to have somewhere to go after a loss at 1 a.m. when I finished at 1 a.m. against the Seattle Kraken. And there's 600 plus other people to chat to and call in and give their thoughts on these games. So that is something that is nice to have. But no, I do not like the Maple Leafs losing. Let's be very, very clear about that. Another super chat here from JD Anderson. Can we get Mike from Buffalo to say dough, please? No, Mike left. Not happening. Chat summary. Viewers in the chat are expressing frustration and disappointment with the Toronto Maple Leafs performance, especially after the game with Seattle, debating player performance, potential trades, and more. Well, pretty accurate by the AI chat summary. Okay, let's get to some callers here that we've got on the line. Let's start with this one. Zoom user, who I can only assume would be Mark from Oshawa.
Yes, Zach. How are you, buddy?
I'm all right, Mark. It's crazy. We're 2:15 a.m. People are still pissed off. People are still buzzing, so I'm happy to be here and give my thoughts and hear everybody out. But just unbelievable. We're still watching this nonsense and still having to talk about this stuff. It's frustrating. It's disappointing. It's upsetting. It's all of it right now, Mark.
Yeah, I listened to part of the last show there from the last game, but I think you went on for like just over 4 hours. So then I went to bed and I listened to it on the way to work in the morning. But no, I was listening to some people in chat. I think you might have mentioned something too. I'm not understanding necessarily the hate on Craig Berube unless he's what I mean is, okay, you had Babcock, then you had Keith, then you had Berube. The first two coaches didn't hold any of the core four accountable. So why would anybody expect Berube to? And maybe at the end of it all, maybe it's Pelly or somebody higher up that's not allowing the coach to hold your top guys accountable. Is that possible?
I guess. Don't know, right? I mean, I guess, but like, okay, the accountability thing is one thing. Okay, maybe that's the case. Maybe it's tree living. Maybe it's just a recognition that, like, who, if I sit this guy, who else plays? Like, Mike brought it up. Like, okay, you sit Morgan Rielly, who plays? Like, you have to give Simone Benoit more minutes or Jake McCabe more minutes, who's struggling right now, which I get the comments. I get the arguments of that. And it's hard for me to push back if the team is trying to succeed. Or before, when you're watching the team and you're trying to develop them, it's like, okay, well, why can't you like sit these guys now and send messages? But my problem with Craig Berube, more than anything else, more than accountability, more than all of that stuff right now, is his usage of the roster and his deployment of guys. I don't think there's anything really wrong with. So Chris Pronger said it the other day, and I know a lot of people watched the interview that he did, and it got blown up across social media, and I think the point that he made was right, and this is where what Craig Berube was in, and what Rosie, myself, Alberga, even Vic were trying to get across, and I think the point still stands in the style of play, at least here, is that he wants to play meat and potatoes hockey. Yeah. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but there needs to be a recognition of the talent or the type of players that you have, and I think that's where the disconnect came between him, Tree Living, and the roster. So I don't think there's a problem with meat and potatoes hockey, but what Pronger brought up was that there's guys here who don't want to play that, and there's guys who are here who are probably not really capable of playing that. And I think that's that point that Pronger made is bang on. It's 100% correct. The problem you end up with then is, okay, is Craig Berube willing to adjust? For a long time, he wasn't. And to start this season, he really wasn't. And I think last year, if he had let them open things up offensively a little bit, they might have even had a little bit more success. But I understand he's trying to drill through the fact that you got to play more responsibly, a little bit tighter, a little bit heavier. And I have no problem with any of that stuff. A little bit more simple, because let's call it what it is. One of the things the team struggled with when they got in the playoffs every year was that they didn't know or weren't capable of playing the simpler brand of hockey because they had played in regular season so loosey-goosey and so open for a while. I'm not talking about the defensive side. Like, defensively, they could tighten things up, but, you know, the simple things, getting pucks out, making simple plays, hard on the forecheck, they didn't have that kind of stuff, and I understand Berube was trying to force that into them. Finally, he decides he's going to adjust a little bit and start to meet them partway through, where it's like, hey, we got to still do these things, and that's what you saw over the stretch that they won, but I'll let you open it up. I'll let you play in transition. I'll let you play the rush game a little bit more, which I think he should have been doing. Okay, so that stuff all starts to finally happen, but the stubbornness still remains, where you watch the guy and we watch Matias Michelli in this one make one bad pass in the third period, and he gets benched for the remainder of the third period. And yet Morgan Rielly, who makes bad plays night in, night out, still gets to go out there. Like we talk about the Islanders game, they lost 4-3 in overtime. Morgan Rielly was on the ice for all 4 Islanders goals, and I think 3 of them were directly Morgan Rielly's fault. And yet he still gets to go out there late. He still gets to go out there in overtime. And at the end of it, he's a direct result for that loss. Those things are confusing for me. The decision to start Anthony Stolarz, he says that one's above him, or it's Stolarz who decides he wants to play. You're the coach, dude. You don't want the guy to play? Don't play the guy. You don't want him to get the net? Don't give him the net. Look at the game tonight. Nick Robertson, flying, only plays 15 minutes. Max Domi, who was making bad decisions offensively and struggling defensively, plays 19 minutes. How is this the case? The deployment there from Craig Berube and the stubbornness of like sticking with his guys, if you want to call it that, that's the stuff for me that's making me want to get a Craig Berube scar across my forehead, banging my head against the wall, because I can't wrap my head around those decisions. Style of play, whatever, but the decisions are insane.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. But doesn't it send a message to the other, like to the top guys, if you will, that, okay, Michelli made a bad play, so we sat him a shift or whatever. So then like somebody like Matthews or Nylander go, oh, well, I know if I make a bad play, I'm still going to go out for my next shift. Or like any top player on the team. Do you know what I mean? Like it doesn't really do it. It doesn't really send a message if you sit Domi for a shift or Michelli or McCabe or whoever. Like, I don't think anyway.
I mean,
because you're not even sitting Rielly. So, I mean...
Yeah, no, I get it. But, like, it's just... I think that the thing is with the accountability, we're too late, almost.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think you are fully too late, but, I mean, at this point in the season, I think we're just too late on some of this. I look at... And why I say you're not fully too late is, like, I look at the Islanders. Say what you want about Patrick Waugh. Patrick Waugh is healthy scratching Barzal because he was on his phone during a meeting or missed a meeting or something like that. Or I think he missed an alarm and didn't make a meeting, and so he healthy scratched him. And then the other day, I think it was this past Sunday, before the game, he had a talk with Barzal and his line about back-checking and committing to the back-check. And on one of the goals that were scored against, they didn't commit to the back-check, so he sat them, and I think they missed 10 minutes of play. It sends a message to more than just them. It sends a message to them in the moment. It holds them accountable, and then it filters down the lineup. The other guys that I look at as an example, people forget, and we want to so quickly point at, look at how long it took Ovi to win. Yes, that's a very specific example, but one of the things that ended up happening, and TJ Oshie said it when he joined the boys on Leafs Morning Take, was Barry Trotz was hammering down on these guys. They needed to play a certain way, otherwise they would never have success, because they hadn't experienced any to that point, and they weren't buying in. And then he basically started like sitting guys. He would bench Ovi, he would keep him out and make him miss shifts, make him miss power play opportunities, until finally Ovi realized, I got to do all these things a whole lot more than I'm doing right now. And then he bought in, the team had success, and they won a Stanley Cup. That's where I think some of it starts to happen, where you're just missing that accountability for some of these guys. And I know that this is like, people are going to be losing their minds. Like, accountability, really? Like, look at the roster. I get that, but you are missing some of that level of accountability, and it's been missing the whole time. And I think some of it, maybe to your point, where it's organizationally or exterior pressure. Like, I hate to bring the guy back up here, and people are going to say you're shitting on him, but it's one of the things that happened very early on where Mitch didn't get a letter on his jersey, and so his dad threw a fuss, so they gave him a letter. Mitch didn't get on one of the power plays, so his dad threw a fuss, and so he got on the power play. And it's like they faced that pressure externally, and it just got handed to them. Opportunities got handed to some of these guys without them earning it or learning to do the right things and play the right way to get that ice time and to deserve that ice time. And I think that's part of the problem that we're having here now, and part of the problem that you've had in the playoffs every single year.
No, I agree with you, and I remember seeing that show with Pronger and listening to that. He was right, but, I mean, if you get rid of Berube, who comes in? This would be now the fourth coach you bring in if you get Berube and the tenure of the Matthews era, and at some point, I mean, I know people have said it before, you guys have said it too, eventually people got to look, okay, it's the players. Like, I know everybody in the chat saying trade Matthews, but I mean, I'm a Matthews fan, so I'd be biased, but honestly, I would keep Matthews, Nyes, McCowan, and Wall and Hildeby, and I literally would dump the rest of the team, honestly, and I would build around those 4 or 5 guys that I mentioned, but I want to see Danforth because he's from Oshawa, so I want to see him get in there eventually whenever he's able to get in the lineup, and then build around those guys, and then go from there. So you might be waiting another 5 years, but I just wish somebody in the organization would come out and say, look, we know the season's done, even if we were to win out, hypothetically, which we wouldn't. We're not making the playoffs. We're going to retool, not rebuild. We're going to retool, and this is what we're going to go with, and then go from there. I think fans would appreciate it more if you said that instead of just hoping that they're going to make the playoffs and then they miss. Like, I remember one year they played shitty, and they lost back-to-back games to Montreal back in the day, and when it came down to the playoff push, they missed the playoffs by 2 points, and it was because they lost the last game of the year to Montreal and didn't get in. I'm not sure what year that was, but
yeah. Well, so what I would say, because you're saying trade like everybody basically, other than the guys that you named, Danford, Cowan, etc. I think the thing that you have to do though is recognize the talent that you have within that is worth keeping. And
yes.
I don't know if Tree Living's the guy to do it going forward. I probably actually don't think that he is. But
No.
To give him some credit, there are some pieces here that are worth keeping. He did keep Nick Robertson, and he didn't give up on Nick Robertson. That's a guy I think is worth keeping going forward. He signed Nyes to a good contract. I don't have any problem with the Matthews contracts or the Nylander contracts. Like, those dollar amounts aren't issues. Those are what the players are worth, so no issues there. Obviously, wish Matthews maybe took less when you look at what McDavid signed for, but who the hell knew that McDavid was going to do that? But, I mean, there are pieces here that I think are okay, that are fine to keep going forward or to have going forward. I don't think you need to get rid of everybody. Keeping Dakota Joshua at his cap hit, and he's injured, so I don't think he's a player you can trade anyways. But I mean, is keeping him at his cap hit maybe a good player to have in your bottom line, or in your bottom 6, and maybe on your 4th line? Probably. That's probably something that's fine to keep around. I think that keeping some of those pieces is okay, but I think you need to identify it's time to move off of older guys and take what Boston did and use that as the blueprint. They kept Pasternak, they kept McAvoy, they kept their goaltender, and then they adjusted around them. They moved off of an older Marchand, they moved off of Brendan Carlo, like they moved off of Coyle, they moved off of pieces. And then they decided we need to retool and get younger and give younger guys a try. That's what you need to start to do. That's the adjustments you need to make and the changes that need to be made going into this summer. So those are the kinds of things that I think this team should start to do.
Yeah, I was going to say that you kind of hit that we need to get younger, not older. But just one quick thing, and I'll go, because I don't understand. So the top 5 pick protected goes to Boston, but I heard people in the chat say if we lose a bunch of games, we would get that pick back. Like, I just didn't understand how that works.
So they do the lottery, and if the Maple Leafs pick ends up in the top 5, they get to keep it. So anywhere from 1 to 5, they keep it. If it's anywhere from 6 or later in the first round, it's Boston's pick. If it's a top 5 pick, it's theirs, and then they get the next available first round pick. So if they fall off a cliff and they finish bottom 5 and they get a top 5 pick, you get to keep your pick and you would get to draft one of the 5 best players available.
And Boston still gets their pick though, right? Like that we owe them, right?
Not this year in the first round.
Oh, so if we finished low enough, we would get it and Boston wouldn't get the pick that we owe them?
They get it in the next available first round pick that the Maple Leafs have.
Oh, okay. See, I wasn't sure how that worked. Okay. My apologies.
Yes. It's protected. So they get to keep it if they finish in the bottom 5. If it's anything outside of the bottom 5, it becomes Boston's pick. 6 or beyond is Boston's pick. If the Leafs finish 6th overall, 6th last, and that's where they get in the standings and in the lottery, it's Boston's pick. If they are top 5, it's their pick.
All right. One last thing and I'll go. Sorry. Nick Robertson and I'm sure Bobby McMahon will get traded for picks, but if he didn't, is McMahon and Robertson both the same winger? Like, could those two not play on the top line with Matthews instead of who he's got?
I don't know about Robertson. Like,
just because of Domi,
I don't know. Like, I know, but I think what you need there is a guy who's more of a playmaker than a guy who's a guy like Nick Robertson's more of a shooter. He can make plays and he's good offensively at generating chances, but he's not really a playmaker, if that makes sense. Not that he's incapable of it, but like, I mean, I don't want Max Domi to be on my first line right wing, but the reason that he is because he's a playmaker. That's why like a Michelli is a guy that could step into there and be a playmaker, but you need a playmaker. I don't want Auston Matthews playing with another shooter because when push comes to shove, I want Matthews shooting the puck, not Nick Robertson. So that's why I would have him.
I was just going to say that. That's why they don't. That's why I was willing to trade Nylander, because if you have those two on the same line, it's almost like they fight over the puck. But I'm going to go here in 1 sec. But I remember last year when Matthews was injured for a while, the Leafs played great. They were scoring goals. Power play was clicking, whatever. But then when Matthews came back, I feel like the team feels like they're forced to give Matthews the puck, whether it's the power play or just 5-on-5 hockey. Like, is that just me, or does other people see that too? Like, just in any situation in general.
Yeah. Like, I do think that to an extent, but I think when the guy's on his game, it's fine. Like, if he's a guy who can take over and if he's a guy that can carry play, it doesn't really matter. Also, like, I know you brought up trading William Nylander. I just would not, like, look, man, if somebody calls you and offers you something ridiculous and he's willing to go there, then sure, entertain it. But
well, yeah, I would do that.
I would rather have them playing on different lines.
Yes.
I think that you put Matthews on the first line, you put Matthews on the Nylander on the second line, and it balances things out. And then you have two lines of attack. And when things get difficult, you can put them together. But I don't know. I mean, I think you're okay with both of them. It's a matter of what can you get back. What if one of them you can get back a stud defenseman? What if there's a team that's out there and is like, we are willing to move on from one of these guys and we need William Nylander, and you're like, well, we need a defenseman. Okay, why not do that? Like, that's where the conversations come. But that's kind of all I got, Mark.
All right, thank you for the time. I appreciate it. Love the show, and keep it up.
Thank you.
You don't go until 5 a.m.
Yeah, no, I don't know if I could do that, but thank you, Mark. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
There you go, Mark from Oshawa. If anybody else wants to call in, click on that link. One thing I haven't done yet here, and there's over 600 people watching, so make sure to hit that like button. Subscribe here to the channel, Leafs Nation 401, right here on YouTube as well. Podcast gets posted after the show every day, so if you want to listen to the podcast for Leafs Nation After Dark, you can check us out on all podcast platforms as the Leafs Nation After Dark. Make sure to find us there today after this one, but we did hit 100 likes, and I got to double check here. I think we're at 134 right now, so if we get this thing to 150, I'll have to do the smelling salts 3 times, but only at 134, which means I got to do 2 for first set of 50 and the second set of 50, getting us to 100. Here are the smelling salts. 2:30 a.m. and I'm doing smelling salts. What the fuck? All right, let's keep this thing going. Keep hitting that like button. Keep subscribing. We're going to get to more callers here, and I want to continue to read Super Chats, so if you guys have Super Chats, send those in. Like this one that comes in from JD Anderson Comedy. JD says, who would win in a fight, you or Rosie? JD, that is an insane question. Obviously, I would beat Rosie in a fight. I'm kidding. Rosie would beat the fucking wheels off of me. I would be in shambles. If Rosie grabbed me and wanted to square up at any given moment, I don't even know if I would last like 2 seconds in that fight. I would be a mess. if Rosie decided he wanted to tilt me at any point. Mess. I see this comment here, and I just wanted to answer this. Todd Pickles said, so you're not serious about winning then? Why not change it up? Look, man. I'm not saying you can't trade the guys. I'm saying you don't have to trade the guys. If you can approach this strategically and intelligently, which I'm not sure that the guys here running this right now can navigate this correctly, but if you can do that and stick handle through this, I think you can come out the other side in a good position team-wise and have those guys still here. Now, what I will say is if trades come up or an opportunity comes up, or if this team is just not going to get better, yes, you trade the guys. Like, I'm not saying hold on to them and walk them to free agency and they leave, but, like, I just don't think the conversation right now is you have to trade them. I just don't think it's you have to trade them. Let's get to the next caller here that we had waiting on the line. Let's go to Merrick. Merrick, what's up?
What's up, Zach?
Tough one here tonight. I think it was kind of expected. It's not like at this point in the season that I'm expecting wins or anything like that. And I think for the most part, Leafs fans probably actually prefer if they lose, just given what can happen for the organization if you get yourself into the bottom five. But still tough. Still tough to wait up till 10 p.m. Eastern time to watch the game and then watch them fall off a cliff like that and be like, well, now we have to talk about this again. So that's where I'm at right now, Merrick.
You know, besides the fact that it's almost 3 a.m., I feel fucking great because the Leafs won tonight. From here on out,
they lost.
From here on out, Leaf fans, any sane Leaf fan should be pissed when the Leafs win. Then that's just the sad reality of this season. This team needs to lose every game possible to avoid our division rival getting a higher pick. It's sad, but it's true. We're not making the playoffs. If you think that's going to happen, it's not. So, I mean, I don't know. I feel great. I mean, it is what it is. I got work in 5 hours, but fuck it. I need to get some shit off my chest, and you're the right guy to listen. So,
yeah, dude. Keep going. Well, also, I'll just jump in and say, this is where the dilemma comes in for me personally, where people come to the chat and they're like, look at this guy. He wants the team to lose. Like, it's better for the show. Look, I'm not going to pretend it's not the case that when the Leafs lose, more people come here and are frustrated. I do not want to see the team lose. Like, it genuinely pisses me off and upsets me when the team loses because I want them to win. That said, to your point, Merrick, right now, the best thing for them to do is lose because A, you're not making the playoffs, so that's one of them. And B, if you don't finish top 5, Boston gets your pick. So, like, missing the playoffs and getting anywhere from 6 to 10 or 6 to 15 does not help you. You might as well just be as bad as you can. Willie, stay in the press box. Nyes, time buddy, take some time off here. Morgan Rielly, play 45 minutes a night if you've got to because you're tanking us defensively. Like, now is the time to play kids and just say fuck it and lose games. Like, this is when it's the best opportunity for this team to lose games. So yes, now I am rooting for the team to lose games because it's best for them organizationally. Continue.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, a lot of negativity recently. I'm going to try to spin this in a positive way. And I can only come up with 5 words.
Okay.
Let's go Blue Jays, baby. Those are the only 5 words I got. That's the only way I can look at this positively. Also, let's get something clear. The Leafs aren't a bad team. We need to stop saying that they're bad. The Leafs are a fucking dumpster fire, horrible donkey dick team. That's what they are. They're not bad. They're fucking awful. It is what it is. I've watched every game for the last 10 seasons. I can honestly say this game, I could care less if they won or lost. Honestly. This is the first time in 10 years where I just really did not give a shit. When that first goal went in, didn't even react. Like, I've just gotten so numb to this now. It's crazy. But yeah, anyways. Yeah, I'm not going to talk about specifics of the game because, frankly, who the fuck cares? The season is over in terms of the playoffs. So, and anyone who thinks it isn't over and still has a dream that they're going to make the playoffs, they are dreaming and they're hoping for a Christmas miracle. Newsflash, Christmas is gone.
It came and went.
Let's be real. Like, and it's crazy because we were talking about how amazing that 8-0-2 stretch was when they were showing that they were good. That could have been the worst possible thing that happened to this team. Right now, when you look back at it, it's terrible because it just delayed this inevitable situation that we're in right now.
Yeah, I mean, that's a fair point. It's a good point. The only thing that you got lucky as, if you're a Leafs fan, thinking back to that stretch, is that thank whatever, if you are religious, thank whatever God it is that you pray to, that Brad Treliving didn't look at that stretch and go, I got to add to this. Because if you started trading pieces, young guys, picks, whatever, and started trying to add to this group, holy fucking shit. So that's the only positive to put a spin on what you just said. That's the only positive that came of that, is something that didn't end up happening. But I do agree with you. The only thing that is saving this right now is the fact that you at least didn't get yourself too high up in the standings. Like, you're far enough ahead of Vancouver and Calgary, but you can still drop out of this thing far enough. So
yeah, it's just crazy to think that after that win versus Colorado, we were thinking, this could be something. And they have, what have they won? 1 game since then? 2 games maybe? Like,
I think one. I think 2.
Maybe Winnipeg, right?
Okay, so yeah, maybe 1 Winnipeg. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, 1 game. Wow. Like, we were thinking they were something, but then they win 1 game after that and the season's over. All right. Let's have the Rielly talk, because I want to get my 2 cents out of here. So, Zach,
yep.
I've called in 4 times. You and I, we sit here nightly and we talk about how garbage Morgan Rielly is.
Yes.
I have one question for you. Do you think the other GMs in the league also don't know that he's garbage? Like, it's literally their job to know this. They get paid millions and they have a full staff that scouts players. So if you and I can sit here and see that he's bad, you think that they can't? Like, nobody is fucking trading for an AHL defenseman that makes $7.5 million. On a good team, as we've seen, he's at best a third pairing D-man. Nobody's paying $7.5 million for a third pairing D-man. So my theory is, and this is going to suck, is I think this trade will likely have to be like a Marleau or Mrazek trade, where the Leafs will actually have to add to get rid of garbage. There should be no GM in this league who wants this guy based on the fact that dollar for dollar, he's probably the worst defenseman in the league. If a GM is going to trade for this guy and he doesn't clearly win the trade, he should not have a job.
Yeah. That's a really good point that you bring up there about getting rid of the guy and the salary, because I think he's got 4 years left, and at 7.5 or whatever it is. That's one thing I think a lot of people here in the chat a lot of times kind of have a disconnect from or don't realize, is they're like, let's get rid of Morgan Rielly, and like, you think you're going to get something back. To your point, I think you're more in line with what you just said, and it's that you're getting rid of him and having to attach if you want to trade the guy. The only way you get out of it with anything back is if you find a trade that he's willing to go to that team and you eat like half of his salary. And in that case, what you would end up doing still is not getting the most back on the deal, because he's not that valuable. Like, he is a guy who's going to be a 4, 5, 6 on some other team. And even as of right now, I don't know that there's another team out there who has a need for a Morgan Rielly. Like, most teams out there have a need for an Oliver Ekman-Larsson or Jake McCabe or Brandon Carlo. They don't have a need for Morgan Rielly. So it's more likely than not you're paying to get rid of the guy. And that might be in the form of salary retention, which is not that bad if you have to think about it, because as Mike from Buffalo pointed out, if you buy out the guy, it's like $3.5 million or something for the next 4 years, and then it's $2.5 million for the 4 years after that. But I would much rather go down that path and have to eat something instead of having to pay to get rid of the guy, or just flat out buying the guy out and having to pay the salary, rather than what you're saying, which is, I think, very, very accurate and a good take by you, is that you're probably actually having to pay to get rid of the guy, like what you did with Marleau, which is the last thing in the entire world I want to be doing right now, especially when the Marleau trade like stares me in the face anytime I watch the Carolina Hurricanes, or I watched Four Nations last year and I saw Seth Jarvis, who was picked with that pick by Carolina, and I just go, that was one of the mistakes of like, here's a young guy with that grit, with the intangibles, with the attitude and the character that all embodies everything that we want here in Toronto. And he's in Carolina because we had to pay to get rid of Patrick Marleau. That's not what you want at all. So yes, I do. It's a very good point by you.
Yeah. I mean, you mentioned McCabe and Carlo and OEL being assets that other teams would want. Yeah, because they can actually sort of play defense. Like that's literally the name is defenseman. And Morgan Rielly just doesn't play defense. But anyways, okay, accountability you talked about with Mike. One play I want to talk about in the game, Michelli, he got benched after that shitty pass that resulted in the fourth goal on the boards.
Yep.
It was a terrible play. Of course, it was a bad pass. But if you actually go back and rewind that play, Matthew Knies gets a tape-to-tape pass right up the middle at center ice. He skates around, holds onto the puck, doesn't make a play, doesn't get it in deep, and the play goes the other way, and that sets up Michelli's error. So the point you made with Mike is, why isn't Knies held accountable? Why hasn't Rielly been accountable all year when there's basically a goal every game that has Rielly's fingerprints all over it? Like, like Craig Berube seems to have 3 or 4 guys that are like, yep, that's my guy. I'm going to pin it on him. You know, Michelli, he's got Nylander he goes after. Like start being accountable for the players that fucking mean something. Domi has been shit all year. He makes bad plays every game. Doesn't get benched. He got scratched one game, I think, this year. But come on. The crazy part is, with this whole Morgan Rielly thing, I think you said it, I want him to play 40 minutes a game right now. I do, because it'll help the Leafs tank. He's so bad, it will help them lose.
Somebody said that to me, Merrick. I don't know if it was you or somebody else. Somebody said that to me, and they said, I actually don't want Morgan Rielly traded. I want him on this team because it'll help the Leafs get a better pick. It's
true. It's true. Literally every game, there's a goal that goes in where you're like, fuck, there's Rielly again. Fuck, there's Rielly missing his assignment. Like, God, the guy is, it's 13 years. Done. Just go somewhere else, man. Anyways, just on that point, that second line in the last 11 games, Tavares -11, Knies -8, Michelli -7. That line is not working. You have Tavares who literally just doesn't, he's not a second line center in the NHL anymore. Then you have Knies, who's probably injured, but is also slow as hell, and they just both love to hold onto the puck forever. When, ironically, the player who should probably have the puck most on that line is Michelli, because he's the best playmaker on that line. That line flat out just doesn't work, and if you actually want to win games, I think you need to change that line.
We shouldn't want to win games, but yes, I understand your point.
Yeah. I think I've made it clear that I'm full on Tank Nation now, so leave that line as it is, but it's garbage. And I guess one of my last points, I'm the only caller here, so I guess I can take a little bit more time. But
yeah, dude, the floor is yours. More colors or not, I don't care. The floor is yours, buddy.
So we're talking about, let's talk trades and what's going to come up. This is my opinion. Nobody, and I mean absolutely nobody, should be safe from being traded. Matthews, in general, just based on who he is probably safe, because I just don't think you win a trade with his name involved. But that doesn't mean you don't fucking listen. You listen on Nylander, you listen on Knies. I don't care. These guys have not won a single thing in the last 10 years with this team We need to stop being in love with losers. Look at Colorado. They traded Rantanen. They're first in the league. Look at Florida. They traded Huberdeau, who I believe was a 100-point player. They won 2 cups after that. Nobody should be safe. I don't care how attached you are to that player. And I'm just going to keep going. I highly disagree with the whole notion that it should be a retool over a rebuild. Like, what are we retooling around? Matthews and Nylander, 2 guys that have won 2 series in 10 years. And I don't want to hear the excuse of the core four was being paid too much and there was no supporting cast. They had a fucking 3-1 lead against Montreal and lost that series. So you can get the fuck out of here with this whole supporting cast bullshit. They are paid that money because they should be leading the team. They are the ones that should be taking this team to the next level. That's why you make the money. Boston's retool is working because they retooled around a number 1 stud defenseman, something the Leafs haven't had in God knows how long. They also have David Pastrnak, who gives a fuck. Remember that he fought Tkachuk in the playoffs when they were getting their ass beaten. I think it was in game 1 or game 2 of that series. How many fights have Matthews and Nylander been in? 0 combined over 10 years where you play the same teams every year in the playoffs. You're going to tell me you can't get angry one time? Not once? Even in the regular season. How many games is that? Like, that's insane. Like, Matthews has not taken over a game once when it matters, even in the regular season. You can remember all these quote-unquote meaningful games that his team has no-showed for. This is his team. He is the captain. He was given the C. Mm-hmm. He needs to lead those games where it matters. On Nylander, again, great player, elite offensive abilities, no doubt. I'm not saying these guys are bad players. But Nylander, he has effort issues. Ask Rosie. One of Rosie's best rants was about Nylander's effort. Yeah. Do you really want the rest of your team to keep seeing a guy that gives a fuck for only half the season? A guy that doesn't hit, is bad defensively, flies the zone for breakaways. And if you ask Matthew Tkachuk, if you remember in the series, he was looking for Nylander, calling him one of the softest guys in the league. So don't hear it from me. Take it from the guys in the league, right? We're at a point right now where we shouldn't give a flying fuck about these guys' feelings. We gave them everything they wanted for 10 years, and they have given us fucking nothing. Nothing. Last thing before you.
By the way, you're on fire right now. I just want to jump in before you go forward. You're on fire. You are absolutely flying, and I am enjoying this a lot. The only thing I just want to make sure I'm clear on here for people, because I don't want people to have a takeaway from this that and be confused about this, is I'm not saying you cannot move these pieces. I just want to make that clear. I'm just saying I don't think you need to approach this with like smash the panic button, light everything on fire, it's all over, get the fuck everything out of here, and you have to move the guys. I understand and hear your points, and I actually really don't have any disagreement to anything you brought up about Matthews or Nylander. My only kind of thing that I'm going to throw out there on this is if you can find a way to construct this team where you have pieces who are equivalent to them, or like guys who can make as much of an impact, who do the right things, maybe you're in a place where that mindset can counteract what they bring to the table. And I know that's wishful thinking, but like my point is, or the way I look at it would be, what if you bring in some stud defenseman? I don't know who that guy is, and I'm not saying he's readily available, but what if there's a way that you can find a stud defenseman and you can fit into here? What if there's a way to fit in, your Robert Thomas kind of guy who plays the right way, has won a Stanley Cup, knows the things to do, can play in your top 6, and can be a piece that changes things? What if that's something that you can bring in here? I'm not going to be opposed to that. But I do completely understand what you're saying, and I can't really disagree. I hate it to have this conversation now. It sucks because this is the train that I was on like 5 years ago or 4 years ago after they lost to Montreal, saying it was time to move on from Marner and go and find that stud defenseman and change up how this whole group looked and find the guy who could be the number 1, and you just don't have that extra asset, because if you trade Mitch Marner and you bring back a D, you still have Matthews, you still had Nylander, you still had JT at that point, but then you decided to hang on and you missed the boat, and now you have one less asset. And then on top of that, you have an aging John Tavares who now makes $4 million and is actually probably more of a bottom six centerman, forward / centerman than what you had with the last couple of years where you had 4 top 6 guys. You now have 2. Like, now if you trade one of them, you have 1, and that's where the concern comes in for me, is like, okay, if you trade one of them, you have to go and try to find another top 6, and who's that guy that's out there? I don't really know right now, but that's the only thing that I would just throw in. Like, again, I know I'm playing both sides or kind of riding the middle here, and I'm on the fence a little bit, and I'm not trying to just be like defend these guys but agree with you kind of host right now. That's not my goal. I just want to throw out there the point of, I'm not trying to say you cannot trade these guys. That's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm getting at. I'm more just am looking at, I don't think you have to say, get them the fuck out of here. They can't be here anymore. If you can find a way to get better and add around them, okay, then that's something I'm willing to entertain.
Yeah, I mean, to your point on having a number 1 stud defenseman, we've been missing that. Like, we have not had one. Think about the homestand. The Leafs played Minnesota. Quinn Hughes controlled the game. Detroit, Mo Seider, they have their stud. Buffalo has Rasmus Dahlin.
Yep.
Colorado has Cale Makar. Like, every good team has their guy. The Leafs have not had a guy forever. Like, they need that guy. They need to find a stud defenseman. Like you said, it's easier said than done, but they need someone who's like Quinn Hughes plays half the game.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, no.
If you have a guy like that who plays half the game, you're probably going to win more games than you're going to lose because he's that good. Like, he was running circles around the Leafs in that game. Him and Brock Faber are crazy together.
Yes.
Anyways, last thing. I'm the only caller here, so if we want to talk after this is good. But I just have one more thing. There's one person that I really, really, really feel bad for, and it's Joe Bowen. This is not the way Joe Bowen should be going out. This is ridiculous, and I feel so bad for him because he was literally the voice of my youth watching Leaf games. He should have never been taken off TV, but whatever. But I just feel so bad for him. I think Nick even tweeted that out after the game, so yeah, I completely agree with him. This is not the way he should be going out.
No, I agree. This sucks. Like, it's the exact wrong time for him to go out. He got to watch 9 years of a team who, you know, I'm not going to pretend like they gave us the most ever. They won 2 playoff series, but he got to take 9 years of like top 3 team in the Atlantic and going to the playoffs, and then the final year that he has, it's almost poetic actually, because I think when he started was before they were like really good, and then they got really good, and then now he's back here. But it does suck that this is the way he's got to go out. That thing is, I do agree with you. I feel bad for him. It sucks. It sucks that that's the way that it's got to go.
So typical, huh? So typical of the Leafs. When it means something to someone, fuck off.
It's Leafy. It's so Leafy. Yeah, you're right. You know what? Think about every game, and I think it was JD who called in a couple games ago, and he brought up the fact, after the Marner game, he brought up, like, every game the Leafs had played that meant something that they lost. I think they lost the revenge game against Keefe. I think they lost the revenge game for Berube, the one for Michelli against Utah, both against Marner, the games against the Islanders for Tavares, like, all of it. They lost all of them. There's way more that I'm not even thinking about. They lost them all. And then this season, it's just like the ultimate slap in the face. It was like the season to go out on top or have a good year for Joe Bowen to go out and just finish off, even with like a solid regular season and a playoff series. Even if you lost in the first round, and I'm not saying this is the best situation for the organization, but like, that's like the least you could have done for Joe Bowen, and instead you're going to have a year where you're competing for a top 5 pick.
Yeah, and that was the point I was making about Matthews, right? Like, where is he in those games that matters? You got to, like, he's a good player. Like, you notice him, but you got to lead your team into those games. You got to fucking show that you're not losing those games. And he's had that problem throughout his whole career. Like, there's games in the past seasons where they're playing Columbus on a Wednesday night and they just fucking shit the bed. Like that's 2 points. That's a free 2 points. How do you and this is a common theme with this team, by the way, where they used to play down to their opponents, especially on home ice in front of their fans. So just not a good look. And I wish Joe Bowen would have a cup to go out on, but that's clearly not going to happen.
I know. It sucks. Anything else, Merrick? If on a normal night, I would probably say, hey, yeah, let's stay up and chat. But It is 3 a.m., so I think I'm probably getting to a point here where I'm wrapping. So unless you got any other points, I think we'll probably end it there. I'm not trying to
No, that's it. I got work in fucking 5 hours too, so I should probably head to bed.
Okay.
It was great chatting with you, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, dude, you're welcome anytime. I appreciate the call here tonight. I would love to say that I hope in the future our calls are different, but I can't fake it to say that would be the case. I don't think that'll happen for the rest of the season.
Yeah, we might have to wait until October of
It'll be next year. So, It'll be next year. But Merrick, thank you for the call. I really appreciate it. You go get yourself a good 5 hours of sleep and have a good day at work tomorrow, buddy.
All right, I will. Thanks, Zach.
All right. Thanks, Merrick. There you go. Yeah, I know there's about 600 people still watching at 3 a.m. We are over 2 hours into this thing. I'm not trying to just shut down the show or anything like that, but I think we pretty much exhausted tonight's game with Merrick, with Mark from Oshawa, with Mike in Buffalo who called in here in terms of what happened tonight, as well as some big picture stuff and what needs to happen with this team going forward. So I think for myself, I'm probably getting to a point here where we can start to close this thing down. I've got segments to do to wrap this up, so I'm not going to go anywhere here, at least within the next 15 minutes. So if you're watching right now, don't leave until we wrap this up. And I still have more stuff I want to ask you guys about and know how you guys feel about this game. So don't go anywhere and keep hitting that like button, because I also owe you 2 more sets of smelling salts. We hit 150 likes here on the post-game show, so we're going to do smelling salts for 100. We'll do smelling salts for 150. Here's the first set of smelling salts. Todd Pickles says, I don't want to call. I'll get hate. I'm not a Leafs fan. Todd, I won't give you hate. If you want to call in, the link's still pinned there. I'm not telling people they can't call. I just was wrapping up with Merrick because we had no other callers and I didn't have anything else to get to with him. So if you do want to call Todd, call in. I'm happy to take that call. But in the meantime, while we wait for that, if you do want to call in or not, I've got a segment to get to. Our best bet segment is a presentation of Bet365. Whatever your bet is, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Use promo code NATION. That's NATION, code NATION. NATION. Must be 19 or older, Ontario only. Please play responsibly. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem, visit connectsontario.ca. Okay, so there's questions in the chat here as well that I'm going to answer because I see people bringing stuff up, and I do want to get my opinions in on these things and not wait till Saturday, especially because stuff is fresh. So I will I'll answer that, and I see specifically the question from Josh D. Pens about an article that came out today. I do want to answer that, and I know the boys on Leafs Morning Take will answer it tomorrow as well, but let's get to the best bet here first of all. We do win this one tonight. We had Bobby McMann over 2.5 shots on goal. In this, that one profited us here $77.50. So that brings our total on the season to minus 0.2 units, minus $20. Win the last 2 here in a row. We bet the Sabres minus 1.5, and then we win on the Bobby McMann shots prop tonight. He finished with 3 shots on goal, and I think he actually had all 3 in the first period. So thankfully he got those in because none really came throughout the rest of this one, and the Leafs team kind of fell off a cliff. But that is our best bet, and that one wins, and we get to down 0.2 units on the season, down $20 on the year. Let's get to the question in the chat. I'll give some brief thoughts on this one, Josh D. Pens, and I'm sure a lot of people saw this, but I'm just going to give my opinion, and If you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't. And it's more opinion-based than it is anything else, so keep that in mind when I answer this. But Josh Depends asks, what are your thoughts on the article that came out today, Zach? And for those of you who aren't familiar, whether you're watching live or you're listening back on the podcast, Jonas Siegel put out an article that effectively said, just to summarize, the Leafs had a director of sports science who was here, and he was a really good one that was brought in and recommended by the guy who's the director of sports science for the Raptors. And the guy ended up coming here to Toronto, was the guy from Mike Babcock's time through for I think 5 years, and then he left to Anaheim, and then he was replaced by somebody who came in who was really good as well. And the Leafs ended up being one of the least injured teams in the entire NHL, least bottom 5 injured teams in the NHL over that stretch of time. Last year, they were 11th, I think, but as it was pointed out by Jonas, that was mostly because Hakanpää's missed games counted towards that, and Järnkrok's missed games counted towards that, which was a sports hernia and whatever Hakanpää was dealing with. I think it was foot or back or whatever the hell it was for Hakanpää. I can't even remember at this point. And this season, when their director of sports science left for Pittsburgh because his contract came up and he decided to join Dubas and the Penguins, they didn't replace him. True Living went on Overdrive today and said that that's not true. They did replace him. Here's what I will say. I know people who are familiar with the organization who have told me that what True Living said is not entirely false, but Jonas is also correct. I'm trying to think about how I'm going to answer this. I'm sorry, guys. I'm kind of stuttering through this. But when Keith Pelly came in, effectively what happened was the Maple Leafs started cutting fat. It didn't just happen with the Maple Leafs. It happened with the Raptors as well. For those who are familiar with the Toronto Raptors, they moved on from the president, Masai Ujiri there, and they trimmed that down and they just went to a GM, and it's Bobby Webster who's calling the shots, and he's the guy in charge. And maybe Bobby Webster is the next guy in line anyways, and that was the succession plan or whatever. It doesn't really matter. I don't really know. I'm not that familiar. But he decided to cut down on jobs. It's more than just a Raptors and a Leafs thing. It is an organization-wide thing that seemed to happen when Pelly came in. And it really rubs me the wrong way because cutting fat is not a problem. It's a business. If you can cut costs for things that are unnecessary, that's fine. But you need to have the right people in place. You need to put teams in place. And as much as this is an entertainment industry and professional sports are an entertainment, the goal is still to win. The goal is still to win championships. And that should be, if you own a sports team, what your goal is every year. Obviously, turning a profit is important, but winning or making money is essential. Pelly said that they weren't here to sell jerseys. They were here to win Stanley Cups. And everything that's come out since then has sounded the opposite. And from everything that I've heard, it's just not been the best situation. They cut a lot of people. Didn't really replace stuff. And where I go to with the article about the sports science is True Living went on Overdrive and said, hey, we replaced him. We have a guy who's running that now. From what I understand, It seems as though they replaced him with a guy internally who's not as qualified for the job as it would be if you brought in a proper director of sports science like they had previously. And that's not to shit on the guy who's in charge of it right now. But the point is that they said, we can find a guy who's here right now, not have to pay that much more money, cut some costs here in terms of having to bring in somebody new, bring in somebody big who's going to demand a big payroll or whatever, and we can fill this role internally. And I think, somebody who's not as qualified. And I think that's part of the problem, and that pisses me off. It frustrates me because I think when you look at the production of the team and the injuries that have happened here this season, some of it is inevitable. The shortened schedule, the condensed schedule, it kills you. A lot of teams are dealing with it, but you had a very obvious situation developing here with Toronto where you had an older team and guys who have dealt with injuries before, maybe not as significantly and maybe not as bad, but you've dealt with injuries before. And it was paramount to handle those injuries and the rest so that you don't overdo things, you don't burn guys out, and you make sure you avoid injury as best as possible. Like, the sports science teams that are brought in are more than just dealing with injuries after they happen. A lot of it is proactive and preventative, making sure that guys are healthy and in the best shape that they can be going into things so that they don't get injured quite as often. And you are now looking at this season, which who knows how different things would be, but you're having injuries pile up and recurring injuries, and you're having guys playing through stuff to get through games and to battle things out. You've seen Ekman-Larsson deal with stuff. You've seen William Nylander dealing with the biggest injury of his career. You're seeing Matthew Knies battle through stuff. You saw Anthony Stolarz sit out for a long time. And I'm not saying that the people who are here are not capable of handling the injuries. I'm not saying that at all, and not trying to put blame on them in any fashion. But I think that just the entire process from top to bottom was trimmed down and overlooked. And you have cut costs on things to say, hey, you know what can we do to make more money? You raised ticket prices. You sold Mitch Marner Vegas autograph jerseys in his return game, a game that the organization should have embraced as this big rivalry night. Hate him, love him, I don't really give a shit, but the organization should have understood how much this meant to a lot of the fan base and how frustrated a lot of the fan base is. And it just seems that you're going backwards. Before Brendan Shanahan got here, the organization was kind of a laughingstock in the NHL. They were run poorly. It was confusing. It was muddy. There wasn't clear direction. There wasn't clear voices. There wasn't proper teams put in place. And since Shanahan had come in, that kind of changed. Whether it was the scouting staffs or the analytics teams or the sports science teams and the doctors and the training staffs, everything. It was all brought in to make the team a better run organization. And it feels right now like we are going backwards. Hearing that article today and knowing some of the stuff that I know, it just doesn't feel like this was gone about the right way. It feels like money is more important than winning. They know how much Leafs fans love this team and will still show up and show out. And I think that's a testament to Maple Leafs fans that they will always show up because they love this team. But that's also taking advantage of the fan base that you have and knowing, hey, no matter how bad we are, no matter how much we fuck this thing, we're still going to have people come back. You cut costs. You overlooked things. Your team is underperforming. Tickets are more expensive than ever. True fans can't get in the building. Injuries are piling up. And I think True Living wasn't lying. I think they replaced the role. But I don't think that they took it as seriously as it needed to or cut corners because they thought they could get to a point where hey, we've got a guy who can run this, and it's just somebody who wasn't as qualified as they should have been, and it wasn't taken as seriously as it needed to be, especially going into a year where you have older guys and in a tight schedule. This year, more than anything, needed to be approached very carefully, and it just wasn't. And I think we're seeing that now, and I think that there's a part of me that's really, really concerned about what the future of the organization looks like if that's the path we're heading down, where it's all about money and cutting costs and cutting jobs and all of that. I think it goes beyond a president of hockey ops and a sports director or a director of sports science. I think it goes into jobs within the organization as well, even beyond like people who are focused on Maple Leafs. And I think for that, the organization is in a worse spot. And that really, really fucking scares me. A lot of other organizations and owners, all they care about is winning money, winning games. Look at Vegas. Bill Foley, the only thing he gives a shit about is winning. He's willing to pay for guys to go away, for coaches to be fired, for players to be bought out, for players to leave. He doesn't give a shit. Pay for contracts, don't care. Pay for it all. Give the team the best opportunity to win. Look at Utah. Look at Ryan Smith. He comes in, independent owner. All he cares about is Utah winning and being successful. He's willing to do anything it takes to do that. MLSE, right now, it feels like this is the first time in a long time. That's not the care. That's not the main focus. And that worries me about the future of the Maple Leafs. There's probably more to say about this when it's not 3 a.m. I hope I gave a good enough answer to that Josh was asking and looking for, and I hope people understand what I was trying to say in there, but that's my honest thoughts about what's happened and the article that came out today. I know that based on Tree Living's comments, it's going to maybe paint Jonas as like he's wrong and got information wrong. I think both sides are right. I think Tree Living's right. They did replace the guy. I think Jonas is right in that they didn't take it seriously and replace it with the type of person who should be in that role. So that's what I'll say. More information will definitely come out. We'll learn more stuff, but yeah. I did see a comment here that made me laugh while I was talking about that. I'll see if I can find it. If you're in there, Martin Denan. I live in Porto, Portugal. Dude, first of all, side note, Porto, Portugal was my favorite place I've ever been. Went there in the summer. That was the first stop I did on my Portugal trip. I loved the place. Porto was unbelievable. What a spot to live. But he says, I live in Porto, Portugal for the winter. I woke to find After Dark live. I then knew Toronto had played a bad game. Unbelievable. I'm sorry that's how you had to find out, Martin. I'm sorry that's how you had to find out, but I'm glad that you get to live in Porto, Portugal. What a spot. Fuck. I loved it there. Okay. Let's get to our last couple of things. Yalpe says, I'm just a troll, not funny. Sorry, guys. Actually, I like the Leafs. I'm just mad for you guys, for real. Thanks. All right. Let's go to our Crave the Stats segment. Crave the Stats is a presentation of Uber Eats. Uber Eats is enabling fans to maximize their fan experience all season long with exclusive game day deals on the app, from game day eats to paper plates and napkins if you're hosting, to all the ingredients you need to make your favorite game day dip. Every time the Leafs are playing at home, you can get these exclusive deals in Toronto only on Uber Eats. The Firehouse Subs, the BOGO Brisket Hat-Trick, Kibo Sushi, BOGO California Roll, Shelby Shawarma, BOGO Traditional Wrap. BOGO, of course, is buy one, get one before, during, and after the game. Uber Eats assisting every fan's hockey experience all season long. Make sure to keep hitting that like button, ladies and gentlemen. There's more stuff to get to here on the postgame, including smelling salts. I still owe you guys one more smelling salt, so we'll do that. But for Crave the Stats, it's something that we haven't had to do in a long time, and yet we're going to do here again tonight. We're bringing it back, ladies and gentlemen. Credit to Tankathon for having this, but our Crave the Stats segment is going to be over at the 2026 NHL Draft Lottery Simulator, where if you take a look right now, the Maple Leafs have the 8th best chance at getting the first overall pick. Ahead of them would be the Vancouver Canucks, the Calgary Flames, the St. Louis Blues, the New York Rangers, the Winnipeg Jets, Chicago Blackhawks, Nashville Predators. Taking a look at the standings here through 54 games, the Predators are 3 points. I'm going to say ahead of you now, because if you're going reverse, that's the way to look at this, I think. Preds are 3 points ahead of you. Chicago is 6 points ahead of you. The Jets right now are 8 points ahead of you. The Rangers actually are only 7 points ahead of you, but win percentage-wise, they are ahead of the New York Rangers in terms of the lottery. So let's sim the lottery. The Maple Leafs stay in the 8th spot. The Boston Bruins get the pick. No movement. The pick goes to the Bruins. Vancouver, first overall. The Rangers move up 2 spots. They get 2nd. The Flames move down. They get 3rd. The Blues move down. They get 4th. The Jets, the Blackhawks, the Preds, and the Leafs stay the same. Bottled Air says, having the 8th pick wouldn't be bad. No, it would be bad. Because it goes to the Boston Bruins. Josh D. Penn says, hold on, Zach, you got to do 3 draws. Why 3? You only get 1. It's 1 shot. One shot. 1 opportunity. And we missed it. Okay, with that, let's get out of here with these 2 final things. Play of the game. What do I even want to do? Play of the game. What's the play of the game? Like, what is possibly the play of the game tonight? Robertson goal, I guess. Nicky Bobby is a bright spot right now. I guess that's play of the game. Play of the game is final buzzer losing. Play of the game is giving up a chance 31 seconds later and having the game out of reach because now you're trying to get a lottery spot. Maybe that's the play of the game. I don't know, guys. I'm sorry. I'm being a Debbie Downer, but I think that's it for me. We did hit 150 likes, so here's the smelling salts for all you sickos out there. There you go. There's the smelling salts. With that, let's get to our grade of the game. Tonight, I'm going to do an F because of the performance and the loss and the way they played. But I think after tonight, losses are going to be like, it's going to be reverse. Like a loss, because you're out of the playoffs, like you're done. I think losses are A pluses and wins are Fs. Like, you're 10 points out of a playoff spot. You're cooked. You're done. You're not going on a miracle run. The teams ahead of you are not losing games and not picking up points. They're winning every night. They're going to OT. You're out. It's over. So tonight's an F, but it's also an A+. Okay, with that, that'll do it. That's the end of the show here tonight. Thank you to everybody for watching. We have over 500 people at 3:21 a.m. There's 164 likes on the postgame show. Thank you guys so much for watching, commenting, subscribing, super chatting, calling in, all of it. Shout out to Merrick for the rant. Thanks to Mark from Oshawa for the call in here. Thanks to Mike in Buffalo for stopping by the program. Thank you to all of you guys who sent super chats and liked the stream here tonight. Really do appreciate it. Continue to subscribe here to the channel, Leafs Nation 401, right here on YouTube. Check us out on all podcasting platforms as well, Leafs Nation After Dark, wherever you get your podcasts. So thank you guys for watching. I will be back here on Saturday night. Game preview early in the day on Saturday for Leafs Canucks. And then post-game live stream immediately following to break down everything that happened in the Leafs-Canucks game. So thank you guys. Appreciate you as always. Leafs lose game 54 to the Seattle Kraken here tonight in what was a tough loss for the Maple Leafs that ultimately I think is like the final. Like if Buffalo wasn't the final dagger, this is the final dagger here tonight in a 5-2 loss to the Seattle Kraken. So thank you. We'll see you guys on Saturday. Until then, keep believing. For more content just like this, including game previews, post-game live shows, Leafs Morning Take Monday through Friday with Nick Alberga and Jay Rosehill with special guests, as well as instant reaction videos, make sure to be subscribed here to the Leafs Nation YouTube channel. Turn on notifications so you don't miss anything. And